Part 37. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 361. Sugu went out to communicate with Bismarck, looking a bit windy and cold. As Sugu left, only Saratoga and Bazai were left in the room. Bazai was lying on the bed, and Saratoga was sitting by the bed. The two of them were good friends. Saratoga stretched out her hand and knocked twice on Bazai's back. Bazai showed no reaction at all, looking like he was more sad than he was. Bazai, your head is really caught in the door, how could you even think of putting your things there? Bazai replied weakly, I have sealed it well with tape, and you can't tell it from the outside. Those kids, what won't they read? Especially Utopia, Lafayette, and U47, they are the most naughty, and Zai is also quite naughty. The most naughty one is probably Thatcher. Bazai still knows some things about the townhouse. Thatcher dared to wipe her hands on the apron of the countermade uniform, dared to say that York City was big-breasted and brainless, and even dared to call 11 Sylvie, Admiral Pell. Thatcher is just stupid and is always instigated by Sigsby. Saratoga understands better. Fletcher is the elder sister, but Sigsby, who is also the elder sister, is the most sinister and likes to instigate her sister to do things. No matter who is naughty, don't put it there next time. If you are careless, you will suffer a loss. Bazai is not arrogant, he dares to admit his mistakes and constantly improve. Saratoga mocked unscrupulously, next time, do you want a next time? Let's get through this first. Admiral, I will definitely succeed. I will definitely be able to keep my property, hallelujah, and Amitba. You, Savatika, are useless. I don't think the Admiral wants to succeed. Well, let's go outside and listen to what they say. Bazai shook her head, but she was too lazy to move. Moreover, if someone eavesdropped in the past and was discovered, the crime would be increased. She was just too lazy to think about the problem, which didn't mean she was stupid. Eavesdropping was nothing to Saratoga, but it was a big problem to herself. Saratoga saw Bazai's listless look. Bazai had always refused to be soft or hard, or even aggressive. She said, if you don't want to go, I'll go. Seeing that there was no way to say anything to Bazai, Saratoga ran out on his own. She ran back not long after, and then whispered to Bazai, when I was walking through the corridor just now, I saw my brother-in-law and your sister quarreling. Oh, Bazai covered his face with a book. Life without a book seemed a bit boring, so he was listless. If you want to quarrel, just quarrel. It seems that the Admiral is trying his best, but trying his best alone is not enough. He must get his own notebook before he can be rewarded. Saratoga said, don't you care about the outcome? Does sister agree? I don't know, Saratoga said. Then you ask me to ask you. I went out for a run, and I feel very shameless for your behavior. Actually, I wanted to listen more, but Prince Eugen's thick eyebrows and big eyes were actually there to eavesdrop. The two of them stood there, walking all the way. There were so many people walking around, it was really inconvenient, so I had no choice but to leave, and of course Prince Eugen also drove me away. Saratoga chuckled as he spoke, but Bazai just responded feebly. Without the notebook, he always felt that something was missing from his life. Seeing the state of Bazai, Saratoga was too lazy to speak any more. She sat on the edge of the bed and thought for a while, then rolled on the bed holding Sugu's pillow and then stood up. Now that my brother-in-law is not here, there is no point in staying here. It is better to go to sleep with my sister in my arms. My sister comes first, my brother-in-law comes second. Saratoga slapped Bazai's butt hard, grabbing the full elasticity, and said, you can continue to wait for the news, I'm going back. What about you? When are you going to go back to bed? Let's see when the Admiral comes back. Anyway, I'm waiting here, otherwise I'll sleep here. Beizai never cares about what he wants to do, whether he can do it or not. It is common for him to get into Sugu's bed. If anyone finds out, he will act indifferently. Saratoga said, "It's up to you, I'll leave first. It's so boring. I want to sleep too. Jia, please turn off the lights when you go out. When there is a notebook, even the night is still day, when there is no notebook, even the day is still night. Besides, even the drawing board in the room was taken away, and Prince Eugen was asked to move it to the activity room. There are also things belonging to Richelieu in the activity room. Richelieu also used that activity room, so it's easy to create things there. There was no notebook and no drawing board, so of course I had to sleep to pass the time." On the other side, Bismarck said quietly, "It can be seen that Admiral, you really like Beizai." Hearing Bismarck's voice, Sugu nodded. He really liked Beizai, even when he first played in the game. When the North House was built, it could not be renovated at that time and was not strong enough. However, due to the cute vertical painting, I just got Beizai and put it in the main fleet. Daily drills were essential, and even ship girls like Rodney and Nelson who could transform were postponed. He decisively trained Beizai to the full level and regarded it as his own battleship. Later, the North House was able to be renovated, and I liked it even more then. Games and reality are not the same, but even Beizai in reality has a cute appearance, a fleshy figure, and is fat but not greasy. Well, Beizai must not use words like fat. Beizai has a weak personality and will not make trouble unreasonably. Just reading or drawing in a notebook every day is enough. Although she may ignore people while reading the notebook, once she puts down the notebook, she will be excited to sit next to you and talk to you, tell you many things, hold your hand, and sleep on your lap pillow. That is Lao Sig's North House. Facing Bismarck's words, although I really wanted to answer sincerely, Beizai is really cute, extremely cute, and a large little house. After thinking about it for a while, Sugu still said, "Why did you say that?" "There's no reason, I just suddenly wanted to ask something and it came out of my feelings." Sugu hesitated and said, "Beizai is very cute." Saying this, Sugu saw Bismarck sitting on the bed, holding his curled legs with his hands, looking completely different from his previous cold and serious posture. Bismarck said such words quietly, which made Sugu feel a little confused. Then I heard Bismarck say, "I am more like a man than Beizai." "I don't think so." "That's right." "No." "Well, Bismarck, what's going on with you?" He originally accepted Beizai's plea and came over specially, and the two argued for a while. It was originally a debate about the book, but later it actually turned into a debate about Beizai's education. Sugu was not a weakling. On the contrary, he had read many more books than Bismarck, and even more than anyone in the garrison. If there is an argument, how can Bismarck compare to him? He frowned and thought for a moment. Anyone would be upset if a woman makes trouble for another woman. Bismarck would not make a fuss. If there was a problem, he would first look for problems within himself. Thinking of Bismarck's words, although he didn't know why, Sugu said, "Everyone has his or her own characteristics. Beizai is cute, you are heroic, especially today you are wearing hot pants and short sleeves, you are very charming. There is no need to compare anything with Beizai, you are Bismarck, the unique Bismarck." Even in the past, I still felt shy when talking to women, but after being here for such a long time and being surrounded by ship girls, I no longer feel any unnecessary pressure when facing women. Especially like Saratoga, who will pester you and ask you to say love words and so on. After being trained by Saratoga, it is not difficult at all to say the words of praise. Bismarck said, "A woman must have long hair like Lexington." It has been more than half a year since they separated and met again. From that day to now, the Admiral looked at him with strange eyes. As time goes by, of course, the relationship gradually becomes closer. Friends, good friends, will exercise together, or occasionally go for a walk together. However, it is considered a wedding ship. It's not just a relationship between a ship girl and an admiral, it shouldn't be just a relationship between friends. As for my admiral, every time he comes to his room, he is either looking for Xiaozhe or Beizhe. Even if Beizhe made such a mistake this time, the admiral still came here specifically for Beizhe, hoping that he would be lenient, and even rarely argued with himself. It really makes people a little jealous that the admiral himself is doing this for Beizhe, because he is obviously a wedding man. Is there anything I can do? I don't have much femininity to begin with, and I don't know how to cling to others. Seeing Bismarck playing with his short hair, Sugu said, to be honest, I like short hair best, don't you know? Short hair like yours, and short hair like Ruhi, I like it best. And then Beizhe. Medium long hair like that, and finally long hair like Lexington. Actually, it's not that I don't like it, I should say I like it first, second, and third. Things turned out like this. I don't know why Bismarck became like this. After thinking about it, he decided to go back to sleep. There is nothing I can do about Beizhe's matter. The two of them were silent for a long time. Sugu said, I just asked Beizhe if I could keep a few notebooks. If not, forget it. After all, she committed suicide on her own. You can take a look at those things for yourself. It wouldn't be good if the little girl saw it. What time is it already? Saying this, Sugu looked around, but there was neither a wall clock nor a grandfather clock in the room, nor did he bring out his pocket watch. A world without mobile phones is really inconvenient. If he hadn't become an admiral, he wouldn't want to stay in this world. Bismarck stood up from the bed. She put on her sandals and looked out the window. It was dark outside and said, I don't know, it must be quite late. Forget it, let's not talk about it for now, I'm going back. Bismarck responded, well, I said something very strange today, don't worry about it. How could you not care? Sugu walked to his room, which was only a few steps away from Bismarck's room. Walking in the corridor, the surroundings are quiet. Even if someone is not sleeping, they will not appear outside at this time. When he walked to his own door, he could reach out and open the door, but he just leaned against the wall next to the door. After standing like this for 2 minutes, he walked back, and Bismarck was just about to close the door. How? After spending a lot of effort, Sugu said, Bismarck, take one in. On hot days, he needed to take a shower every day. Lexington came out of the bathroom and wiped his long flaxen hair with a towel. The nightgown was loose. Lexington was combing his long hair by the window, then shook it and spread it out. There are mountains and forests around the town's mansion, and there are no residential buildings. For example, when renting a house in Chuangzhou before, you had to worry about whether someone was peeping, but you don't need to worry like that here. The only male in the garrison is the admiral. If he is the admiral, then just peep, there is no need to worry. There was only one bathroom in the room, and Saratoga had to wait outside while she took a shower. She came out of the bathroom and saw Saratoga lying on the bed, looking distracted. In the past, she would come over and compliment her on how beautiful she was, or how good her figure was, or she would tease her about whether she was going to the admiral's room at night. Surprisingly, I didn't say anything today. Gia, it's your turn to take a shower. I don't want to take a shower. What are you talking about? If you don't take a shower on such a hot day, are you worried? When you came back just now, I saw you in a good mood, so what happens now? It felt like something bad was going to happen. Saratoga said this, looking uneasy. It was fine at first, but suddenly I felt that something bad was about to happen. While his sister was in the bathroom, he deliberately opened the door and looked into the corridor. The lights were still on in the corridor, but everyone's doors were closed. I wanted to go back and knock on my brother-in-law's door, but I thought I was too sensitive, so I didn't do anything in the end. Saratoga still trusts her sixth sense, but after thinking about it, what bad things will happen? My sister is here, my brother-in-law is here, and there is no other important person. Will the deep-sea ship girls attack the garrison at night? It is generally rare for deep-sea ship girls to attack the garrison, and there is no sense of crisis. After thinking about it, I can't think of anything bad happening. Lexington said, "Don't think blindly. It's too late to take a shower and get ready for bed. It doesn't matter if you don't wash your hair." Under Lexington's persuasion, Saratoga walked slowly to the bathroom. Lexington sat on the edge of the bed, thinking, something bad, something bad? Could it be because I found the novel she had written yesterday? Although the content of the novel is very exciting, I am not ready to say anything more. There is nothing to worry about. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 362. Sugu left Bismarck's room. There was no one in the corridor, only lights. He walked a few steps in the corridor, without even trying to open his door, and then turned back to look for Bismarck. Turning around, he saw Bismarck trying to close the door. Looking at the stern face, he spent a lot of effort in his heart before he said, "Take one in." "What do you mean?" "The door of the north house is locked. I can't get in or out of the room." "It doesn't matter if I live here." When he said this, Sugu himself felt blushing. Basically, everyone's rooms in the guard's mansion were unlocked. Just like him, you can easily open the destroyer's dormitory, and returning to the room is just a piece of cake. Whatever you want, you are the admiral. I promised Bazai to come to you to plead for mercy, but she didn't even wait for me and fell asleep first. She's always been so undisciplined. Sugu nodded, and Bismarck said, "You can sleep on the bed in the north house. The room looks like a standard hotel room with 2 beds. Lexington and Saratoga made 2 beds into one, but here in Bismarck, the north house did not have the clinginess of Saratoga. She only shared a room with Bismarck and had no intention of sleeping with her sister on a bed. Bazai even wanted to move out countless times, but Bismarck wouldn't allow it. If he didn't keep an eye on Bazai at all times, Bazai could turn things upside down. "Then I will sleep on the bed in the north house." Her bed, is so messy. Sugu sat on the bed in the north house and looked at Bismarck, hot pants and balloon-sleeved shirt. He said, "Who is wearing this dress? Did I buy it for you?" "It's very beautiful." "Prince Eugen." Prince Eugen has a very good taste when it comes to Bismarck. Prince Eugen always chooses things carefully. Of course, it is also because Bismarck has a good figure. He has a figure like a clothes rack, no matter what kind of clothes he wears. "Great. It's okay, I'm not good at this. I feel like Prince Eugen is like your little nanny and secretary. She stays with you longer than with her 2 sisters. Blucher always complained to me that Prince Eugen is not her at all. Sister. We are sisters in need. Lily of distress." Bismarck stared at Sugu. Sugu couldn't say what he was going to say for a while. Then he changed the subject and said, "The garrison is built on the seaside, and the whistle can always be heard when ships are sailing. The waves are a little big, and the sound of the waves hitting the pier is a little noisy. How do you feel?" "It's okay, I won't make any noise once I get used to it." During the time I left, Bismarck was probably working as a mercenary. "Why are you suddenly talking about this? Didn't you already know about it?" Sugu slept on Bazai's bed, pillows from Bazai. The white pillows in Bazai had turned black. Sugu looked at the ceiling and said, "Sometimes I think, in fact, you can still live a happy life without me, all right." After hearing Sugu's words, Bismarck said, "Admiral, what are you talking about? The ship girl and the admiral are like hands and brains. The hands are very powerful, but the brain is soft like beans. But without the brain, what are the hands? Neither can be done. When I was wandering around and working as a mercenary, I encountered some very difficult things at that time. Although it is said that ship girls can see through people's hearts and know whether those people have bad intentions. However, some people take you to places where you are subject to, in places where deep-sea ship girls have attacked. Even though you know those people have bad intentions, you still want to help when you see those poor people suffering under the deep-sea ship girls' fire. Then those people will tell you that as long as you can help those poor people. Conspiracy, they just use conspiracy. Even if you know that they have bad intentions, it is still difficult to refuse. Fortunately for me, Prince Eugen was almost affected at that time. The ship girl is easy to be soft-hearted, and the admiral needs to stand up at this time, so that's why we have the model of admiral and ship girl. The admiral is persistent and the ship girl is strong enough. This is a garrison. You have done a good job all along. Sugu smiled and said, there are so many bachelors in the world, why should ship girl help people? We can't help them all. You humans, as admirals, can be ruthless. Ship girls are difficult. That's why we need admirals, the ship girl headquarters, and the gendarmerie. In addition to the requirements of the human government, humans must become admirals. This is also a very important point. So, I'm still of some use. Sitting on the edge of the bed and talking, without turning off the lights, Sugu rolled on the bed in Bizai. Bismarck, is there anything you want to do? I think you are quite bored all day long. You have been tossing around the North House all day. The Admiral wants to argue with me again. I'm not torturing Bizai. I want her to grow up. It's about Bizai again, let's not talk about her, it's pretty late, I'll turn off the lights. Turn it off, it's time to sleep. Sugu turned off the light and saw Bismarck sitting by the bed in the dim moonlight. Sugu said, it suddenly occurred to me that it had been more than half a year since I met Bismarck. Yeah, time flies by. Sugu was silent for a long time and said, I remembered something. Bismarck is my wedding ship, right? Bismarck said, I am indeed the Admiral's wedding ship. Sugu unbuttoned his clothes in the dark, took off his clothes, and then put his clothes on the back of the chair next to him. During these days, I was exercising with Bismarck. There was no systematic exercise. Of course, I didn't have 8-pack abs or obvious muscle lines, but my figure was still passable. Seeing Sugu taking off her clothes, Bismarck said, the quilt in Bizai is a bit thick. She hasn't changed it yet. I'm too lazy to care about her. Please pay attention when you sleep. Before Bismarck finished speaking, Sugu said, Bismarck, I like you. A woman like Bismarck usually looks rigid and serious. It is difficult for people to imagine who she will like one day, and it is also difficult for people to imagine what she will look like when she likes someone. Compared with Saratoga, where the enthusiasm can be felt immediately, what Bismarck did is difficult for people to feel. She won't pick up food for you like Lexington, won't cling to your side like Saratoga, won't ask you to do many things for her as a matter of course like Bizai. Some things can only be done by you, only those who are closest to you will speak. Especially compared to Helena, Bismarck would never be able to say, Admiral, you keep looking at it, don't you want to touch it, or Admiral, do you just want to touch it? It must be admitted that Helena's breasts feel very good. Good. I came here specifically to argue for Bizai. The topic initially started with discussing whether I could forgive Bizai, and then moved on to discussing issues related to Bizai's education. Of course, there were a lot of things debated during these times. Bizai cannot continue like this. Why not? Can you still protect Bizai for the rest of your life? Bizai is my wedding ship, what's the big deal if I protect it for the rest of my life? During the argument, he did not treat Bismarck as his wedding ship. He should treat Bismarck as a strict sister. Later he said in Bismarck's faint voice, "You really like Bizai." In fact, we should have thought that Bismarck was also a woman and her own wedding ship. Although she looked majestic and rigid on the outside, she was actually quite soft on the inside. Sugu remembered that Prince Eugen always talked to him, saying a lot of things. The Admiral and Bismarck don't look close. The Admiral should accompany Bismarck for more walks. Don't look at Sister Bismarck like this. Her favorite thing is to run with the Admiral in the morning. After the run, you sit next to the flower garden and talk. Although she didn't smile at that time, I know she was very happy. Sister Bismarck is just not good at words. She really likes you, Admiral. Bismarck actually had a girlish heart. Bismarck was the wedding ship whose favorability reached 200. Although he usually looked serious and cold, Sugu knew something. Bismarck's original portrait in the game had the appearance of a soft cat, which showed her innermost feelings. Thinking back to the photos I saw from Bizai in the past, as the final collection of Bizai, there was a photo of Bismarck drunk in an open-chested sweater. The Bismarck in the picture also looked like a soft cat. Bismarck said it was a tiger, but it was probably just a paper tiger or a soft cat. If you don't do something, you probably never will. On the other side, when Bismarck heard Sugu's words, her mind shut down for a moment, and she said, "Well, you, Admiral, what on earth do you want to say? You just said Bizai is cute. Bizai is indeed very cute. But Bismarck, don't you know you are beautiful?" After having an argument in the room just now, it always felt a little strange to Sugu to say such words seriously, quite strange. In fact, Sugu already knew Bismarck's intentions. When they were in the port city where the submarines were found, the two of them lived together in a room in Admiral Hipper's villa. We talked a lot, slept on the same bed, it was late at night, and at that time I entered the state of drowsiness before going to bed. Probably thinking that he was asleep, he could feel Bismarck hugging him, but he was not asleep. At that time, he wanted to hug Bismarck, but after thinking about it, he still made no move. Bismarck's intention was already clear at that time, but it was clear, and it did not mean he would do anything. Since then, I have tried hard to find time to walk with Bismarck or sit on the dockside and talk. As for other things, there has never been a chance. It's already night. I'm an admiral and a man. Some things are the responsibility of the wedding ship. If the admiral wants. As Bismarck said this, his face turned red to the point where he didn't know what to do. She sat on the edge of the bed, kicked off her sandals, her breathing seemed a little rapid, and her chest heaved. She didn't speak. If the light was on, Sugu would probably be able to see Bismarck's face turn red. Bismarck sat beside the bed, and Sugu stretched out his hands and placed them on Bismarck's shoulders. The neckline of Bismarck's clothes is not low, but the neckline is a bit large. Putting your palms on it directly touched Bismarck's skin, giving it a warm feeling. Although Sugu had not made any move yet, Bismarck was extremely nervous thinking about what might happen next. Although she is not as knowledgeable as Bazai, she still knows what may happen. Bismarck. You used to wear a knitted sweater. The sweater completely brought out your figure. It was very beautiful. I like the way you look in the windbreaker. You look beautiful when you wear the belt. Bismarck, raise your hand. How? Take off your clothes. It was already a wedding ship, so it was natural for something like this to happen, and Bismarck knew it very well. She is not a little girl who doesn't understand anything. Prince Eugen would occasionally say that he was passing by the corridor at night and heard strange noises coming from the admiral's room. There are some things that are not expected, but there are some things that only the two closest people will do. For a ship girl, the relationship with her admiral is the most important thing. Bismarck put his slender legs together, and Sugu stretched out his hands to grab the hem of Bismarck's clothes, and rolled them up little by little until he reached his wrists. At this time, I thought, I might as well not take it off and just push it to Bismarck. His hands are tied, but it's difficult to break free. Bismarck looks good like that. But now for the first time, I will do something interesting like this again. Sugu threw Bismarck's clothes aside casually. Who cares whether the floor was dirty or not at this time? The lantern-sleeved shirt was taken off, and Bismarck wanted to stretch out his hands to protect his chest. He thought that he couldn't show too much weakness and suppressed his shame. In the darkness, Sugu vaguely saw the scene and thought to himself, Lexington looks gentler than usual, but when necessary, he turns into a ferocious tiger. Bismarck usually looks like a ferocious tiger, but at this time he is a completely soft cat. Sugu slid his hands from Bismarck's shoulders to his waist, then reached out to untie the belt of his hot pants, but was held down by Bismarck's hands. How? Fine. As a ship girl, Bismarck was very powerful. Sugu knew what Bismarck was thinking before he defeated him immediately. Although the ship girl and the admiral are very close, if they don't have a good relationship, the admiral will definitely be knocked down if they do such a thing. Bismarck didn't resist, so Sugu unbuttoned her belt, unbuttoned her, and pulled down the zipper of her hot pants. Put your feet up. Bismarck honestly raised his legs and thought to himself, the admiral really went too far. Do you need to keep asking people to do such a thing? It was shameful for Bismarck, but it felt quite good for Sugu, training the usually majestic Bismarck. Bismarck took off his coat and trousers, and still wore underwear, but that was a trivial matter. In the darkness, as the whistles of two freighters sounded in the distance, Bismarck said with a trembling voice, Admiral. Bismarck gritted her teeth and softened her tone, as if she were normal, not like the little girl she was now. She said, Admiral, what should I do? Sugu put his arms around Bismarck's shoulders, buried his head in Bismarck's neck, then pressed Bismarck onto the bed and said, You don't need to do anything, I will do it. Stroking her smooth bare back, she unbuttoned her bra, slid her hands to the tips of her buttocks, and kissed her gropingly. Bismarck tensed his body, feeling the somewhat shameful feeling. She gritted her teeth, her body felt hot, and then she stretched out her hands to wrap around Sugu's solid back. The admiral didn't have any muscles. She felt stupid for having such an idea. Thinking of this, Bismarck's originally joined legs were gently spread apart. Then the two bodies hugged each other. After a long time, Bismarck huddled in Sugu's arms like a cat. Of course Sugu didn't want to fall asleep at the end of the day, although he really wanted to sleep at the end of the day. He put his arms around Bismarck. Feeling a little shy, not like his old self, he wanted to break away, but the embrace was great. Bismarck said, the admiral must have done it with Lexington a long time ago. Sugu was silent for a moment and said, Yeah, I really feel like a scumbag. It doesn't matter. Everyone likes the admiral. After all, he has already given the ring. Did you do it with the Prince of Wales? No, what's the matter? The feeling of winning. You defeated the Prince of Wales, you defeated Saratoga, and you defeated many people. Thinking like this, you are really a shameless harem man. Admiral, do you want to go back tonight? Otherwise, you will be discovered the next day. You are my wedding ship, and it is natural. Why are you going back secretly? With that said, Sugu put his arm around Bismarck's shoulders and said, Change your posture. No. Who cares whether you can do it or not at this time? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 363. In the early morning, Bismarck woke up from bed and looked at the man sleeping next to him. That is his admiral and his husband. It was before, it is now, and it will be in the future. Bismarck carefully removed the palm on his body and sat up from the bed. Then he turned his body slightly, put his legs under the bed, and fumbled to put on his sandals. Something happened last night, and I couldn't imagine why it happened. All in all, I agreed. Will he be regarded as a casual person by the Admiral, but I have been his wedding ship for a long time, so it would be strange to refuse. Well, the matter has passed, and there is no point in thinking about it. Bismarck looked out the window and said, "It's already dawn, the sky is so blue last night, it seemed that the curtains were not even closed." Fortunately, the garrison was in the wilderness, and there was only a piece of sky outside the window, so there was no need to worry about peeping. Bismarck stood in the room, the morning light shone in, and she was bathed in the morning light. The naked and infinitely beautiful body was exposed, and the palms of the hands traced across the neck, shoulders, collarbones, chest, and lower abdomen. She looked at the figure on the bed, smiled slightly but felt a little shy, and then immediately restrained it. The soft cat has now reverted into a ferocious tiger. The morning light was a little brighter. Bismarck walked to the window and stretched out his hand to pull up the curtains. The light dimmed, which finally made people feel at ease. Then she lowered her head and looked at the ground. She saw the notebooks that she had not packed yesterday, the clothes, and 2 pairs of shoes that were randomly thrown on the ground. She picked up her black underwear from the ground, then sat on the edge of the bed and put on her underwear. Her hair was stuck to her forehead due to sweat, and she reached out to brush her bangs. What happened yesterday seemed a bit sudden, and became a bit crazy, and now she looks a bit embarrassed. But she is his wedding ship, and he is his admiral. No matter what he does, she has already thought about such things. Now, the relationship is a little closer. Bismarck walked to the closet in the room with his long and toned legs, reached out and opened the closet. There were many clothes in it. There are clothes that belong to me, and there are clothes that belong to my sister, because my sister Bazi wears clothes at will. The 2 of them have similar figures, and at most Bazi is more fleshy. Clothes are passed around randomly, and the clothes that have been dried are randomly stuffed into the wardrobe. These clothes are mixed together, and now it is difficult to distinguish whose clothes some clothes belong to. Shirt and hot pants, this is what I wore yesterday. Long sleeves, it's weird to wear long sleeves like this. This leather jacket belongs to Bazi, and it's also kept here. The bright red short-sleeved shirt and the light gauze long skirt are not very good. How can I match them better? I just know that red and green can't be matched. The summer military uniforms and short-sleeved skirts that were left over from the past, but don't they look weird when worn? No one in the town hall wears them like this. After saying so many words in a low voice, Bismarck took a breath and thought to himself, what is happening to him? Then she took a white dress from the closet, and felt that the dress looked a little girly. After thinking about it, she changed into a shirt, and then a plaid skirt. Underwear, only black. After getting his clothes, Bismarck walked into the bathroom inside the room. In front of the floor-length mirror, she took a moment to look at herself. With her round shoulders, tall chest, and flat belly, she should still be somewhat attractive. The sound of rushing water sounded, and Bismarck, who walked out of the bathroom not long after, had already taken a bath. Standing in front of the mirror again, she did not use a comb, but just smoothed her short hair with her hands. The short hair is slightly damp, but the cat ear-like hair is already standing up. It is hair that can never be arranged and docile. She remembered that last night, her admiral said, "I want to touch your hair." I have wanted to touch it for a long time. Her admiral had a rather strange personality. After drying his body with a towel and changing his clothes, Bismarck turned around in front of the mirror. Wearing a white shirt with a plaid skirt makes me look too weak. It's just that these are either clothes bought with the help of his admiral or Prince Eugen, that's all. After cleaning herself up, Bismarck sat on the edge of the bed and looked at Sugu's face. He was already his admiral before, but now the relationship is even closer. This face is not very handsome, but the ship girl doesn't care about appearance, and pays more attention to the emotional connection. The feelings were very good now. She reached out and touched that face. It was rare to see the sleeping admiral. After sitting on the edge of the bed for a moment, she walked to the window again and opened the curtains to let light into the room. Looking out from the window, there were already people walking around in the town hall. Usually at this point, I would have been running outside. As for running, forget it today. Although it is always said that you can't slack off in doing things, as long as you stop once, you have a reason to refuse, but today is a special situation. Bismarck sat back on the bed, and she picked up a book from the ground. Was this to thank her sister? But even if it hadn't happened in Bazai, a situation like yesterday would have happened, but it would have been a little later. Inexplicably, she wanted to look at the notebook, but before she could open it, she heard a voice, "Bismarck, you've just woken up." Bismarck had returned to his usual cold expression and said, "Admiral, it's already morning. Let's get some sleep, it's still early." Sugu woke up and felt the light shining into the room from the window. He subconsciously stretched out his hand to block his eyes. On the small island in the south, it dawned very early, and there were no buildings around, so the light shining into the room was a bit bright. Bismarck's room didn't look like his. There were thick curtains and it always looked a little dark. "It's time for you to get up." Sugu turned around on the bed to avoid the too bright light and said, "You're not going to exercise today?" "Not going. After all, I exercised all night yesterday, so I won't have any fat." Bismarck especially couldn't stand such teasing. He wanted to make a fierce face, but suddenly felt that he had no choice but to purse his lips and say nothing. "Are you reading Bazai's book?" "I said we can follow the postures in the book. I didn't think of trying it last night." "Are you just going to spend the whole day with Bazai brainstorming the plots in books and novels?" "I said you are so anxious to come over to plead for Bazai, you must have a share of the credit. You and Bazai are of the same species, just follow this. Come up here, I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it." "That's right. There are only exhausted cows and no damaged land." When it comes to the level of pornographic jokes, Bismarck is really a novice. Sugu looked at Bismarck's slightly damp short hair and new clothes, and said, "This suit is very beautiful. You were wearing the same outfit last time, too. Wearing a wide-brimmed hat, you stood in the sea breeze with your hand on your hat, your skirt was flying in the wind, but your expression felt a little lonely at that time, but it's different today. Oh, I suddenly thought about you wearing men's clothes, let's try it tonight." Before Sugu finished speaking, Bismarck threw the book in his hand to the ground, then patted the bedboard and said, "You are thinking too much, it's time for you to get up, otherwise you want to wait until Xiaozai comes to knock on the door." "Get up? Beizai's notebook has been discovered by Kongxiang, do you want Xiaozai to see you like this?" Bismarck didn't have many taboos about saying this, so he didn't feel shy as soon as he spoke. Xiaozai likes to knock on the door and wake people up in the morning. But she usually likes to sleep in, so she doesn't do such a thing very often, but she might get up early occasionally. Especially if she sleeps with her friends. After all, not every destroyer likes to sleep in. Especially Utopia. She likes to run in the morning. Sometimes she has already run many laps around the playground in the town hall before she gets up. Many times I see her covering her head while running. Thinking of the small house and the large number of little girls in the town hall, including primary school destroyers and young submarines, Sugu still paid more attention to his image. He immediately climbed out of bed, put on all his clothes and pants, and returned to his usual appearance. Fortunately, the door was locked yesterday. No matter who was outside, it couldn't be opened. It's still somewhat clever after thinking about it. Bismarck said, I didn't think so before, but now I think you are a little lazy, Admiral. It's a bit strange that things like this have happened, and it's still like a stranger. Of course, you can be more casual at this time. Sugu said, I'm so sorry, this is my true side. After getting dressed, Sugu went out first and said, I'm going to see what Bazai is like. Saying this, I felt like a man who had eaten everything and was not prepared to take responsibility. He left his sister and immediately wanted to find her. Although he said yesterday that there was no need to worry, he would still feel a little embarrassed if he saw someone coming out of Bismarck's room as soon as he went out. Whatever he thought of appeared, Sugu went out cautiously, and then saw Prince Eugen, who had mid-length blue hair untied, wearing a white skirt, with his hands behind his back and an anxious look on his face. She stood by the door, staring at herself with a strange look. Sugu coughed and said, Good morning. Admiral, good morning. Why are you at the door? I wait here every day for Sister Bismarck to get up. You are true lilies, there is no need to go to this point, my Prince Eugen. Sugu said, aren't you going to help in the cafeteria? The canteen needs to prepare food for a whole family every day, and it actually needs to be prepared very early. Although there are many people in the garrison now, it is still easy to share the burden with each other. Today it's the turn of San Juan and her sisters. Admiral, why did you come out of Sister Bismarck's room? Bismarck went out a few seconds later. Prince Eugen noticed Bismarck and chirped again, Sister Bismarck, get up. Sugu couldn't stand the strange look Prince Eugen looked at the two of them, and said, I'm going to see the North House. I am still a little worried about Bazai. She is the most trouble-making person. Anyway, my sisters-in-law need to worry more than each other. Sugu walked away. Prince Eugen stood beside Bismarck. When he saw Bismarck's clothes, he said, Sister Bismarck, are you wearing this today? It's so beautiful. Noticing Bismarck's slightly damp short hair, she said, you took a shower so early. Aren't you going to go out for a run, Sister Bismarck? You should come back from a run. No, I came here very early. Looking at Sugu who was leaving, she continued, the Admiral ran into Bismarck's sister's room early in the morning. Is it because of the matter in Bazai that he hasn't given up yet? I heard you outside yesterday there's going to be a quarrel, the Admiral must be too doting on Bazai. Prince Eugen is still a relatively pure type. If it were Leipzig who was also the same old SIG, he would probably be able to think of other aspects immediately. Anyway, Prince Eugen still naively believed that his Admiral appeared here because of what happened yesterday. The Admiral is quite a mess. All those things have been discovered by fantasy, and he actually wants to ask for mercy. Sister Bismarck, you haven't seen the Prince of Wales. When she knows about this matter, she always uses that look at us with contempt. The character of Counterattack is good, and the character of Firefly is also good, but the character of the Prince of Wales is the worst. Well, anyway, it is all the fault of the North House. It is all the Admiral who spoils the North House. The North House, how dare you do this? Bismarck is the eldest sister of the German fleet in the garrison. Bazai is stronger than Bismarck, but he is a weakling who can be bullied by everyone. Bismarck said, okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Although I knew that Prince Eugen was not really saying bad things, but just complaining, I still felt uncomfortable hearing it. Besides, the Prince of Wales has already lost, so what's the big deal? He's just a defeated dog. Speaking of last night, I saw Saratoga walking past the door, and she actually wanted to eavesdrop. She always likes to stick to the Admiral's side, and when Lexington is around, she pretends to be Tsukuru looked like she didn't care. When Lexington wasn't around, she was flirting with the Admiral. She's obviously also a wedding ship, and her personality is really weird. Prince Eugen kept talking. In fact, Bismarck wanted to see the North House. She said, Prince Eugen, you go to the canteen to help. Going to the cafeteria? The admiral just asked me. No, no, San Juan is in charge today. The sisters must be preparing pastries again. By the way, the Joan of Arc is also helping these days. I hate it so much. French baguette. Now Ziazai and the others are fighting with this kind of bread in the town hall. Sister Bismarck, let's go have breakfast. We'll get a good seat this time. Whoever goes first can have delicious pineapple tarts. We can't let Akage get the upper hand every time. Go ahead then. Bismarck said so and reached out to close the door. Prince Eugen looked through the crack of the door and saw that there was no quilt on the bed. As the two of them walked along the corridor and prepared to go downstairs, she thought of her admiral and her sister Bismarck's slightly damp short hair. Something suddenly occurred to her mind and she thought she was so stupid. She faced the morning light and said, "Sister Bismarck, that's great." "What's so good?" "It's okay, no problem. Looking for the lost ship girl." Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 364. When Sugu returned to his room, Bizai was still sleeping. She covered her forehead with one hand and put the other hand on her belly. She didn't take off her clothes. She just lay on the bed and wrapped herself in a thin blanket. All in all, she looked quite casual. Her medium-long pink hair spread out on the bed, and Bizai didn't have that impatient expression when he was sleeping. In addition, her cheeks are fleshy but not fat, her face is rosy, and she looks like an angel when sleeping. Sleep at an angle, I can fall asleep this way, it's amazing. Seeing that Bizai was still sleeping, Sugu stretched out his hand to wake him up. After thinking about it, I still had to take a shower. If I woke up Bizai and couldn't take a bath with me, it would be a lot of trouble. Finally, I decided to let Bizai continue to sleep. While Bizai was sleeping, Sugu was getting ready to take a shower. If he didn't take a shower, his body would feel sticky. He didn't have much particularity, and he wasn't very good at matching, so he just took a few clothes and walked into the bathroom. When Sugu came out of the shower soon, he only put on his pants and not his clothes. Standing in the room at this time, it looked like he had done something extraordinary to Bizai, which was enough for a girl who broke in to shout, "I misjudged you, Admiral, you actually did this to Bizai." However, Sugu has already closed its doors, and no one except a lawless little girl like Destroyer will break in. After getting dressed, Sugu stood outside the window and looked out, and saw Chi Bolin standing under the tree with her legs on the back of the bench, and she was pressing her legs. I heard that Zeppelin can also do yoga. It turns out that she is a ship girl who has been in society and knows how to play. It was almost time to have breakfast at this point. Sugu walked to the bed and reached out to pat Bizai's thigh. Bizai woke up while he was here, turned his head to look at Sugu in a daze, and said, "It's already morning, sleep well." Bizai, a player who cultivates immortality, heard Prince Eugen say several times that Bizai likes to hide under the quilt at night and read notebooks with a flashlight, even though Bismarck always finds him. "I usually go to bed late and get up late, but this time I have cleared all my notebooks. I finally go to bed early and get up early. Early to bed and early to get up are good for your health." Bizai turned around on the bed, her clothes rolled up for some unknown reason, and her breasts could almost be seen. But even so, she didn't know how to pull it off, and she didn't have any shyness that a woman should have. Sugu saw it and thought to himself, Bizai has always been unabashed, and he can eat it at any time if he wants, without any pressure at all. "Tear your clothes off." After hearing the reminder, Bizai finally saw what was happening to her, but she didn't scream like an ordinary girl, and then quickly arranged her clothes. She just pulled it casually and covered most of it, but still exposed a lot of flesh. Bizai himself doesn't care, Sugu certainly doesn't care, he has benefits to see. "You just slept on your stomach like this all night?" "Yes." Sugu saw that Bazai had taken off his shoes and asked again, "Have you washed your feet?" "No," Haki's voice said. Bazai spent a lot of effort to finally break free from the restraints and seals on the bed. When she saw Sugu, she said, "Admiral, why are you taking a shower? You can wash it if you want. There's nothing strange about it. Are you saying that it's not good that I slept with your sister?" If he explained it directly, Sugu was a little afraid that Bazai would pester him and ask, "How were you last night? What did you do?" After all, Bazai has no practical experience, but she wants to know more. In her words, "The more you know, the better you can draw." She is a painter with a craftsman's spirit. In the past, I kept asking myself about myself and Lexington. When I was annoyed by the question, I said, "Do you want us to try it together?" and got an answer like "Okay, okay." Sugu suddenly lost interest. How could this be? You should at least be shy. When Sugu said this, Bazai didn't get to the bottom of it. She asked, "Admiral, you went to see your sister yesterday. How was it?" Not only did he not succeed, but he took it upon himself, and in the end he didn't ask anything. Sugu said, "You'd better calm down for a few days. Every day feels like a year, it's been several months. You can also use idioms, that's great, my Bazai, don't continue sitting on the bed, we have to have breakfast. I'm not in the mood to eat. I want to go on a hunger strike. Even if you go on a hunger strike, you won't starve to death. And if you don't eat, then it's not me but your sister who comes to find you." Bazai had no choice but to get up from the bed. She looked at the bed and said thoughtfully, "The Admiral didn't come back yesterday. Where did you sleep?" Sugu stretched out his hand and rubbed Bazai's chicken coop-like hair, and said, "What do you think? Well, go back to your room and wash yourself up, then comb your hair. I'll wait for you to eat together. I'm not going back. I'll just wash up here." Bazai said this and walked into the bathroom. He came out soon after. I have to say that the beautiful girl is still a beautiful girl even if she is sloppy. Bazai's expression of trouble is equally exciting. Sugu led Bazai all the way to the cafeteria. Bazai said, "Admiral, if you can't convince your sister today, she will definitely burn all those notebooks in the evening. Don't do it. Admiral, do you want a reward? Complete the mission well. Admiral, I like you the most. You will definitely help Tirpitz." Sugu said, "Let's talk again, try our best." Yesterday, Bismarck was convinced to sleep, but he was still not convinced. Sugu wanted to try his best, but he encountered a little trouble and changed his mind. When Sugu walked to the canteen, there were already some people inside. Sugu saw Kong Xiang standing at the door of the canteen, seemingly waiting for someone. He reached out to touch the head of the little princess Nuan Xiang, but before he reached out, Nuan Xiang moved quickly, and she quickly hugged her head to guard against it. Sister Joan of Arc said that Fanfan is no longer a little girl. You can't touch anyone's head casually, and the Admiral can't kiss Fanfan casually, and you can't look at Fanfan's belly. If someone outside wants to do such a thing, then kick that person's leg off. I am not the bad guys outside, I am your Admiral. The Admiral is also a man, I guess. Yuan Xiang is a girl. There is no clear distinction between men and women. Kong Xiang didn't want to touch Sugu's head, so she ran away quickly, making a face before turning around. Forget about leaving his dreams alone, Sugu noticed Fletcher looking at him with a strange expression. "Fletcher, what's wrong with you?" Hearing Sugu's voice, Fletcher trembled, then quickly stood up straight, as if he was shocked. "Nothing. If you have anything to say, just say it." "Oh." Fletcher was wearing a maid uniform. She walked in front of Sugu, looking like she was about to say something but didn't want to give up. After a long time, it seemed that she had made some important decision. She clenched her fists and said, if the Admiral really wants to, just attack Fletcher. Fletcher is also very cute. Please don't attack Sig Spey, Thatcher, and Sullivan. Take action, otherwise they would be considered admirals. So what if he's an admiral? Sugu's voice fell, and Fletcher looked weak again. She said, I don't know. Seeing Fletcher acting like a frightened little rabbit, Sugu said, I will not take action against the destroyer. No, I mean, I will not take action against anyone casually. Fletcher, I have to believe in you, Admiral. I am a very serious person and a persistent person. Why would you say such a thing? But, yesterday, the Admiral was quarreling with Bismarck over those books in the North House, very shameful books. An argument is just an argument. Fletcher, please speak clearly. Of course, what happened last night was not a quarrel, it could only be regarded as a simple argument, and it was not because of the book, but because of different opinions on the education of Bizai. However, at that time, I didn't think about locking the door at all. The garrison was not big to begin with, and then, it seemed, most people knew about it. Coupled with the fact that the three of them became tigers, it ended up that he and Bismarck were quarreling over the book. Although the little girl still doesn't understand much about the book, it still has some influence, and she seems to have become the kind of person who is on the same page as Bizai. In this way, Sugu saw York City's contemptuous eyes all the way, saw Helena shaking her head with a smile, and heard York saying, "Do you want me to enlighten the Admiral?" Next to him, even after his well-behaved little maid fought back, smiles can be seen on all faces. People like the Admiral should be locked up in the military police, but two of us have resigned from the military police. You'd better not let Plan M know about this kind of thing, otherwise she will definitely be happy to arrest you and return you to the military police team. This was the voice of Admiral Hipper. After receiving many criticisms along the way, Sugu looked at Bizai beside him. Bizai had an innocent expression on her face. She was thick-skinned anyway. Sugu found Bismarck. Bismarck and Prince Eugen were sitting in the corner. Bizai did not follow him. She cheered Sugu from a distance. I'm talking about Bizai's book. Before Bismarck could speak, Prince Eugen said, Admiral, you can't come to Sister Bismarck just because of the North House every time. We have already agreed that the things in the North House must be burned. Bismarck also said, burn it. If you insist on taking 1 or 2 copies, can I still snatch it from you? Sure enough, after going through some things, Bismarck became much easier to talk to, but the purpose of Sugu coming here this time was not for the so-called notebook. Sugu turned around and glanced at Bizai. Bizai had an expression of I trust you. He pursed his lips and said, I also think it should be burned to purify the atmosphere in the governor's mansion. Although Bizai's hobbies are very important, he cannot be criticized for this matter. The most important thing is that if you can't even get close to the destroyer because of this kind of thing, you might as well die. Not long after, Sugu left Bismarck's side, putting on an expression of being embarrassed and trying his best. When she found the North House, she sat next to Saratoga, who was looking around. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 365. Inside the cafeteria, the aroma filled the air, the smell of butter and bread. Just like what Prince Eugen said, today it is San Juan and his 4 cat-eared sisters who are in charge of breakfast. Toast, croissants, donuts, condensed milk, etc., and the destroyer's favorite baguette. Saratoga sat behind a dining table, her plate covered with random breakfast items. At this time, she hadn't moved at all, just rubbing her eyes. If you look carefully, she had slight panda eyes. The reason for this situation was that she had been feeling a little uneasy last night. She tossed and turned in bed and had insomnia for a long time. Even after counting hundreds of sheep, the numbers were all messed up at the end, and I still couldn't sleep. No matter what, he didn't fall asleep until he finally hugged his sister Lexington. I always feel in my heart that something important to me is happening, turning me upside down. When I get up in the morning, the uneasy feeling disappears. However, I don't know whether I should say that the disturbing things have disappeared, or that the disturbing things have ended. Even if I am still uneasy, it is of no use. She recalled carefully, what were the previous disturbing things? My sister ran to her brother-in-law's room alone, and stayed outside for a long time. Well, actually I didn't feel uneasy at all that time. Although I was sad for a while, I got better soon. The closer the sister and brother-in-law are, the better, so that the feeling of having an affair with her brother-in-law is the best. The brother-in-law went out with Helena and felt a little uneasy at that time. Sure enough, when Helena came back, she was wearing the ring given by the brother-in-law on her finger. Speaking of that coquettish hoof, she puts the ring on and never takes it off. Akagi also felt a little uneasy that time. His brother-in-law accompanied Akagi to Chuangziu, and when he came back, Akagi still had a ring on his finger. My brother-in-law seems to be a ring-slinging maniac. Can he handle so many people? The 2 previous times I felt uneasy were because my brother-in-law gave rings to others. So what's so disturbing about this time? Did the brother-in-law give someone a ring again? York. After all, York had just come back, so it was very possible that he felt uneasy. Thinking this, Saratoga looked around. The garrison is not big, and the canteen is not too big either. You can see your target by scanning the canteen. In the corner of the canteen, next to a pillar and a pot of pothos, York and Exeter sat. York was sitting next to Exeter. She was waving her chopsticks and seemed to be saying something excitedly, talking happily to her sister. Although she was quite far away, there was nothing special about her body, and no ring could be seen on her hand. Thinking about it, York is just a heavy cruiser. It has never been taken seriously by my brother-in-law before. It is not even equipped with cannons, and it has no chance of a sortie, expedition, or exercise. She just came back yesterday, and it is obviously impossible to develop any feelings now. Her brother-in-law will not give her the ring. If it wasn't York, Saratoga looked around in the cafeteria and saw the raider again. Raider. This Bustabaichi holding the bombers B-25 and a -2 has been his enemy before. Even I don't have those super powerful bombers, even though I said that as long as I give him a chance and someone cooperates, Robin Gaga is much more powerful than the raiders. But the brother-in-law was attracted by the appearance of the attacker's destruction, and he didn't like the trouble, so he didn't give himself a bomber. Speaking of which, when the attacker just came back, he saw her trying to seduce his brother-in-law. What is she doing now? The attacker now seemed to have spilled the preserved egg and lean meat porridge again, and was apologizing to San Juan, who was wiping the table with a rag. Her chest is very firm and her buttocks are very round. When she apologizes, she bends over. The overall arc is great. She also sticks out her tongue while apologizing. She is obviously such an adult. The pink hair is tied into a ponytail, and the ribbons look like bunny ears. Rabbit ears, a flash of lightning flashed in my mind. Saratoga thought of another thing. She thought of the repulse. Could it be that the repulse made me feel uneasy? I remember that in the past, my brother-in-law had a bet with counterattack. I don't remember what the bet was. Anyway, the bet was like this: I was wrong. Counterattack can do whatever you want. If you are wrong, you can wear a bunny girl. Show it to me. In the end, as expected, he lost the counterattack and then wore a bunny girl costume. The brother-in-law who makes no secret of his desires, and the counterattack who can even wear obscene clothes like a bunny girl, they might do something permissive. It is a grave sin for a maid to seduce her master. Counterattack never needed help in the cafeteria. Saratoga looked around. Counterattack and the Prince of Wales were sitting at the table next to her. She also didn't see a ring on her hand. If it's not counterattack, then who is? Looking left and right, Saratoga found no possibility that made him uneasy, when he suddenly heard a voice. Saratoga, you here alone? Where is your sister? She has something to do and has gone to the office. Bizai, you came here so early. Yeah, I got up early today. Saratoga suddenly thought of something. She grabbed Bizai's hand and said, when did you go back to the room yesterday? She remembered that when she left, Bizai was still in the room and asked her to turn off the lights. Bizai didn't think about whether her words would cause others to misunderstand. She said, I didn't leave yesterday. Saratoga stared at Bizai and said, you didn't leave, so you slept with the admiral. Bizai said, he didn't seem to come back last night. He only came back in the morning. He came out to wake me up after taking a bath, so I came here so early. Not back, take a shower in the morning. Saratoga looked at Bismarck, who was sitting side by side with Prince Eugen. She remembered that when she met Bismarck, she also noticed Bismarck's slightly damp short hair. My brother-in-law didn't go back to his room. Where did he sleep at night? Destroyer quarters? The destroyer's bed was so narrow, and he would only ask the destroyer to sleep with him in his room. Both of them took a shower in the morning. Although there are many possibilities, there is only one most likely thing and only one truth. Bismarck, the cat that steals, the cat that deserves to be the cat that steals. Saratoga said, Bizai, your sister. Her tone was faint, and she finally understood why she felt uneasy, but why, the person who was clearly behind her sister should have come by herself. How could this be? Sugu left Bismarck and found Bizai again. He saw Bizai sitting next to Saratoga and Saratoga looking around. Saratoga's figure is much smaller than that of Bizai. After all, she still looks like a girl, a young version of Lexington. They sat together, one slender and the other plump. The two sisters-in-law are both as beautiful as flowers. Sugu was sitting across from Bizai. He hadn't even picked up breakfast yet and said, Bizai. Before he could speak, Bizai said, have you told your sister? Has your sister agreed? Sugu felt a little guilty. He didn't look at Bizai's face full of hope and trust, and his eyes full of longing. He turned his head and said, Bismarck firmly disagrees. No matter how I object or reason, saying this is your only hobby is actually not a big deal, but she seems to have made up her mind. She decided to burn all your notebooks. Well, who told you to stay in your room every day? Although she had long expected such an outcome, Bizai still had an aggrieved expression on her face, and she made a serious statement, I am obviously kicked out of the room by her every day, and my skin will be tanned if I stay out in the sun every day. She also said you don't usually exercise. I'm already very strong, very strong, very strong, and I have a lot of fighting experience. Exercise means running and the like, not drills. I'm a ship girl, what's the use of running? She's the only one who likes to run and lie to others and herself, what's the use to a ship girl? I've never seen the Prince of Wales running, I've never seen counterattack running, the two of them are so powerful. Fantasy she likes running, and she falls the most when she's attacking, every day. Bizai rarely showed anger, and Saratoga said next to him, Bizai, you don't understand at all. Bismarck wants to exercise with someone, and the drunkard's intention is not to drink. Exercise during the day and exercise at night, I'm going to tell my sister, traitor. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 366. Saratoga struggled with the food on her plate. She reached out and tore the bread apart bit by bit, then dipped it in milk and put it in her mouth. His eyes were fixed on Bismarck, who was talking to Prince Eugen in the distance. He seemed to regard Bismarck as bread, so he devoured it. Why is it not me, why is it Bismarck? I am also a wedding ship, why don't I have one? Of course, if outsiders were to look at it, it would probably be because she had tried to commit suicide countless times. Or maybe you keep saying what you want to do, but in fact you are often not mentally prepared. After all, Sugu is really not a gentleman. If a beautiful woman is exposed in front of him, although he won't look at her like a pig, he won't cover his eyes and turn his head away. If someone comes to your door, there is absolutely no reason to push it out. Saratoga looked across several tables at Bismarck. When Bismarck noticed his gaze, he turned to look at his brother-in-law who seemed to be in peace. Sugu has short hair. Lexington helped him style it once before, but unfortunately his skills were not very good. So far, counterattack has been helping him. His short hair was simply thinned, and he looked energetic. He was discussing the Bismarck issue with Bizai. Next time, even if you want to buy a notebook, please don't put it in your room. I hid it all. You can't just put it in a cardboard box and seal it. Finally, take off the cover of the book and replace it with some serious covers. The content is the most important thing anyway. Even otakus know how to put folders full of. When changing a name, a moderately skilled person can not only change the name of the folder, but also the file format. You can only change it back to the original format when you want to see it. Bizai still didn't understand how to change. If you change those books to a cover like Das Kapital, who will read your book? Of course you can't put it on your own bookshelf. Your character has been ruined. You can put it in York City. Or on my bookshelf. Hearing Sugu's answer, Bizai nodded quickly, looking like he was about to take a small notebook and write it down. Bizai is still very cute, different from the cuteness of a little girl, more like a sister, but it should be said that she is a gay. So Bizai, your level is not up to par, you should be like this. Sugu was talking to Bizai, and Saratoga looked at the two of them. I spent the night with my sister in the evening, and now I am hooking up with my sister again in the morning, Saratoga thought to herself, and suddenly became very angry. She took off her white sandals and kicked them towards Sugu's calf. Sugu and Bizai talked more and more enthusiastically. After all, they are good comrades. He didn't see Saratoga sitting next to him, baring his teeth. The expression on the girl's face became more and more dangerous, then, he suddenly felt some force kicking his calf. Hiss, it hurts. Bizai would never do anything like kicking someone. Even when she was angry, she would only show off her face. She would only attack Xiaozai. There was no one else here, so Sugu immediately looked at Saratoga. The blonde girl lifted her long messy hair and tucked it behind her ears. She turned her head to look at the person walking in from the cafeteria and said, "Morning, Blucher." With long pink hair and a voluptuous figure similar to Bizai, Blucher said, "Morning." Blucher was a little baffled by her subconscious response, because Saratoga usually didn't take the initiative to greet her. When Sugu saw Saratoga's inexplicable movements, he knew who was up to something. Even if he said hello, Blucher would not just sit down at Sugu's table. When Blucher walked away, he said, "Gaga, why are you kicking me? Why should I give you a good kick? Who knows what you want to do?" Saratoga did not continue to defend, and then kicked him again. Sugu had good eyesight and quick hands, and quickly grabbed the right foot kicked by Saratoga, which was a bare foot. "And he said it wasn't you." Sugu grabbed Saratoga's slender ankles. At this moment, Saratoga suddenly blushed, and her voice sounded like she was panting, "Brother-in-law." The blushing Saratoga was equally cute, with a hint of seductive sin. Sugu quickly let go of his hand. Bizai looked at the two people in confusion, feeling a little confused. Bizai has the richest theoretical knowledge, but in fact she is the purest person. Even when she reads the book, it is with a pilgrim-like attitude, not with lust. Saratoga just seemed a little dirty in her words. She really didn't dare to do anything. As far as Sugu is concerned, he is just a layman who likes beautiful, cute, charming, and sexy, all of these things. Sugu let go of Saratoga's feet and looked at his sister-in-law's pretty face. Remembering that he hadn't eaten yet, he said to Baizai, "What do you want to eat in the morning? I'll get it for you. Whatever the admiral wants, I want." Sugu walked away, then came back with 2 breakfasts. By this time, Saratoga had almost eaten. The girl's originally shy face looked as usual, and she said with an interrogating attitude, "Brother-in-law, I saw you and Bismarck quarreling yesterday. What exactly did you say?" "Nothing, I just interceded for Baizai and her sister, and then Bismarck didn't want to, and then it was over." We also discussed Baizai's lesson. Of course, at first it was to plead for Baizai, and then it turned into discussing Baizai's education issues. In the end, I was taught a lesson by Bismarck and almost couldn't get out of bed, although in that aspect it can probably be said that I overestimated my capabilities. Education issues, what is that? The world outside is very chaotic. There are always some people who will try to use ship girls to achieve their own goals. Although ship girls are powerful in combat, they are not pitiful. Even if they know that the mission is dangerous and people's hearts are sinister, sometimes there is nothing they can do. Like, Baizai is like this and doesn't study much. Bismarck is afraid that she will meet bad people when she goes out, and he doesn't know what to do. Then what does brother-in-law say? Let me just say, Baizai just stays in the governor's mansion. I will protect Baizai. After all, I am the admiral and she is my wedding ship. How could I let outsiders harm Baizai? If there are any sinful things, if there are any cruel orders, then I will bear the responsibility. Isn't that what the admiral does, Firewall? I protect you. In this case, for other ship girls, it is a great weapon that can increase their favorability by at least 10 points. When Sugu said this, he looked at Baizai. Baizai had an indifferent expression, but she resisted. Obviously, for her, it is a matter of course that her admiral protects her. A character like Baizai cannot be conquered using normal methods. As for Saratoga, her expression was much better than that of Baizai. Her eyes almost lit up with little stars. She said, "You never said that to me." Sugu looked at his sister-in-law. Although he was not a master of flowers, he was not a rookie either. He said, "Saratoga, the same goes for you. I will protect you forever." Saratoga smiled. She looked around and saw that her sister still hadn't come over, so she sat next to Sugu. Although she wanted to tell her sister the secret about her brother-in-law and Bismarck, she had never been a girl who liked to tell lies. Besides, if a secret loses its confidentiality, it has no value. She leaned close to Sugu and whispered softly. "Brother-in-law probably stayed in Bismarck's room all night yesterday. Although he would not take the initiative to say it outside, if someone points it out, Sugu will certainly not deny it. There is no need to deny it." "Yeah, you saw it?" "Baizai told me." Sugu looked at Baizai. He was a complete bad teammate, right from the beginning. As he thought to himself, he heard Saratoga's voice again. "I want a reward, I want a confidentiality fee, or I will tell my sister." Sugu didn't believe the threat, so he said, "Then go ahead and tell your sister. Lexington will definitely know these things. Sugu can't say it himself, so it would be best to let Saratoga do it for him." Saratoga showed an uncooperative attitude from the beginning. Saratoga was a little angry for a moment and wanted to say more when a voice rang out. "Admiral, you are already here." Lexington came over at this time, and Saratoga whispered, "Brother-in-law, just wait," and returned to his previous appearance. Saratoga was feeling uneasy yesterday, Lexington said. Sugu responded, really? Sugu was never threatened. On a bright sunny afternoon, he and Lexington were walking under the tall camphor tree. Lexington was wearing a long cyan dress and long flaxen hair shawl. There was no one around and no destroyers were around. Sugu wanted to speak, but Lexington spoke first. Admiral, you brought me here. What can I do? Nothing happened. Lexington put his hands behind his back and said, do you want to say that the Admiral was in Bismarck's room and stayed out all night? Sugu looked at the smiling expression on Lexington's face and said, how do you know? You can see it from Bismarck's happy expression. So powerful. Even if Bismarck keeps a straight face, we are ship girls and are more sensitive to emotions than anyone else. Sugu sighed and said, I feel like a bit of a scumbag. I have so many wedding ships. Lexington is a wedding ship, Bismarck is also a wedding ship. However, no matter what, because of the game, Lexington was the first person he fell in love with here, the first person he had sex with. Sugu couldn't take everything for granted, and still felt a little guilty when talking about such things. The smile on Lexington's face was full of ridicule, without any sign of anger. She said, yes, the old man is a scumbag, so what should the Admiral do? Kneel on the washboard. After all, the lady has not agreed yet. He actually ran to my concubine's room. Bismarck is not a concubine, she is a wedding ship. At most, you are just ranking in order. Sugu saw the funny expression on Lexington's face and said, you are like this as a man, you are heartless. Lexington's skirt was flying in the sea breeze. She showed a slightly serious expression and said, of course I care. Even a ship girl will still be unhappy if the Admiral she likes has many people who like her. Although she keeps saying she doesn't care, but it is human nature to like someone and want to occupy that person all by yourself. But what can be done? Now that this is the case, should I ask the Admiral to divorce everyone? I guarantee that if I make this request, I will be divorced. It must be me. Lexington showed a grieved expression again and said, what can we do? Even if the Admiral is a scum, a bastard, a villain, and a pervert, he is debauched and has no morals, and he has 3,000 beauties in his harem. We still have to wait for him to turn over. Brand, you only remember that there is a Lexington when you think about it occasionally. You make me so ashamed when you say that. Lexington stretched out his finger and pointed at Sugu's chest again, then drew circles and said, you must feel guilty. The Admiral had known this day, so why was he so lustful? Everyone was given wedding rings. He should have just given out wedding rings. Just leave Lexington alone. I feel guilty, I feel so guilty. Saying this, Lexington reached out and picked off a leaf and said, it is easy for ship girls to like admirals, and many admirals also have many wedding ships. In fact, rather than caring about our feelings, for us, we only need to know one thing, that is if the Admiral likes us, that's enough. We don't need the Admiral to be by our side all the time, just having a heart is enough. Sugu said, you say that, and I feel more and more uncomfortable. Rather than worrying about us, we should actually be more worried about whether your body can bear it. Bismarck must be very powerful. What's so awesome? After a second, Sugu understood what Lexington meant. After such a long time, they are now an old couple. Even Lexington has learned some dirty jokes. Sugu said, nothing matters, I am super strong. Whether there is or not, you can't go to Bismarck tonight. Lexington deliberately made a cooing voice, my Admiral, my husband, it's time to pay the public rations tonight. Saying this, Lexington himself laughed first. Although her character has always been gentle, as Saratoga's sister, Saratoga has a little devil-like personality, and Lexington certainly has some as well. Sugu smiled and said, Gong Liang, 30 is like a wolf, 40 is like a tiger, which one is Lexington? What's 30 or 40? I haven't woken up for a few years. Even judging from my appearance, I'm 20 years old at most. So I'll hit you, Admiral. Don't be angry. Well, I'm going to Sichuan tomorrow, and then I'll probably buy some things, like a fan. After all, it's getting hotter and hotter these days. Where is Lexington? What do you want? A bribe. Sugu nodded seriously and said, for bribery, do you want jewelry or perfume? I already have rings, necklaces and earrings for jewelry, and now I don't need to go out to parties. As for perfume, didn't you say before that it's enough for a girl to have the scent of shampoo and soap? Sugu said, but if you don't accept my bribe, I feel very uneasy. In that case, please stay with me. I'm not the kind of person who would give up my favorite admiral for the so-called fairness and justice. Speaking of which, I heard that you danced with counterattack in the past. When I went to the Prince of Wales's side, I did practice with counterattack for a while. I still remember that her long blonde hair was not pulled up, but let down, and her counterattack was quite beautiful. That time, I felt a little uncomfortable. I sat on the stone steps obediently, giving people a pitiful feeling. Lexington stretched out his hand towards Sugu, winked and said, instead of being angry, it's better to dance, bang cha-cha. Sugu put his hand on Lexington's and thought, my wife, you are too cute. As the afternoon approached, something was happening. Bismarck had collected all the notebooks in the North House. She did not choose to burn it directly in the cafeteria, but chose to burn it on the playground. Looking at the raging fire, Bizai stood in the distance and was crying without tears. All his spiritual food was burned away. This was the most serious accident in history. Bizai said, Saratoga, I want to cry. Saratoga stood next to the North House. She looked at Sugu standing with Bismarck in the distance. That was his brother-in-law. He had a new love outside, and there was obviously a sister-in-law waiting at home. Apart from that, his sister was also standing nearby. She and Bismarck were talking and laughing, and they must have reached some agreement. Bizai, I want to cry too. Seeing Beizai and Saratoga, the one who laughed the most was Xiaozai. She held her belly and laughed forward and backward. Burn it all. Ha ha ha. It's a pity that her laughter couldn't last too long. Beizai, who had nothing to do, was finally able to free up his hands to torment her. Her happy life would begin from this day. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 367. In summer, obvious heat waves can be seen on the ground. There are many shade sheds erected along the streets of Chuangzhou in big cities, and there are many people sitting on benches under the camphor trees and banyan trees to enjoy the shade. The publicists handing out flyers on the roadside were careful to avoid the sun, and only enthusiastically handed out flyers when they saw people passing by. A white-haired girl beside a flower garden pulled the man next to her, then spread her hands and said, Admiral, I want to eat a popsicle. Where the girl pointed, there was a middle-aged man pushing a bicycle. On the back seat of the bicycle was a foam box covered with yellow tape, with a piece of paper on it that said popsicles and jelly. The man placed 2 coins on the girl's open hands, and the white-haired girl immediately ran to the bicycle. After a conversation, he handed over the coins, and then came back with the popsicles. They were all cheap popsicles. When the man took the popsicles and saw them full of mung beans, he felt like he was back in his childhood. Eating popsicles, looking at the bright sun, and resting for a long time under the eaves of the roadside, the man said, Fantasy, Zai, we are ready to leave. And Gaga, well, where did you buy one, paper umbrella? The paper umbrella is very beautiful. I bought it on the roadside. It's very cheap. It can give you shade. The one who spoke was a blonde girl. It's useless. Instead of providing shade for me, you should provide shade for your dreams and small house. Sister Jia, give us the umbrella. No. Jia, just give it to them, otherwise there will be another trouble. Well, let's go to the trade city first, and now we are crossing the road. Zai, give me your hand, and be careful with the car. The short-haired man who spoke was naturally Sugu, and the little pink-haired girl who then held out his hand was Xiaozai. She was wearing sandals that belonged to a little girl, a peaked cap on her back, and a pair of big sunglasses. Although it is said to be fashionable, it actually seems a bit nondescript. The white-haired girl standing next to the small house is wearing a sleeveless dress. She is a little princess in fantasy. Although she usually looks energetic, she still looks a little wilted under such a scorching Sunday. Compared with humans, ship girls have some advantages. They are not too afraid of heat, but such hot days are still uncomfortable. Jia, hurry up and cross the street first. It's too hot. Brother-in-law, are you so afraid of the heat? Of course I'm afraid of the heat. Let's go out and bring Yamato Fukumai back. I heard that her ship is equipped with central air conditioning. Yamato Hotel, what a great idea, I can endure even the deep sea. Remember, didn't you also let the fireflies wear cotton padded jackets in the summer? Don't mention the past. Firefly, you have to wear a cotton padded jacket, but Kirov also wears a military coat in the summer. Isn't she hot? Sugu slandered in his heart, if he was wearing a military coat on such a day, of course it would be too hot. But you were just game characters before. Of course, you don't have to worry about hot or cold. Otherwise, if you have different clothes for each season, it would cost the artist his life. Stop talking about useless things. Just walk down the street and you'll be there. After a lot of effort, we walked all the way to a place called Trade City. Unlike department stores, this is a wholesale market. Of course there was a reason for going to a place like this. After all, the town government had to purchase a large number of fans at one time. Although fans are not expensive, even if there is money in the governor's mansion now, it would not be right to lose them casually. If there are cheap places, naturally buy them at cheap places. There are sheds erected everywhere in the trade city, which is much cooler than on the street. We need a lot of fans. Can the price be cheaper? How long is the warranty? Oh, is it only that short? We can pay first, and you can help us deliver it to the dock in the afternoon. Well, I am the admiral. I will need to purchase a lot of things for my town hall in the future, so can it be cheaper? And we are here to protect our family. Country. The transaction between Sugu and the store owner was completed, and the owner went to order the goods. He and Saratoga left. Saratoga said, "Will we come here again next time? Decide as things go. Then you said you would come back here next time. Are you lying?" I don't believe this, and he doesn't believe it either. It's just a bargain. Next time I come, I'll give priority to this place, but which one is cheaper? Where did Utopia and Xiaozai go? The two little girls obviously couldn't stay in the same place at ease. Sugu was choosing a fan, bargaining, and doing their own thing. Kong Xiang squatted on the ground and looked at the big yellow dog that stretched out its tongue and breathed. She had never been afraid of anything, it was just a big dog. The big yellow dog was not chained and looked a little docile. After all, there were so many people in the trade city and he would bite anyone he saw. He should have been beaten to death long ago. For a time, fantasy was unbridled. Let's go, fantasy, Xiaozai. Kong Xiang looked at the big yellow dog reluctantly, tugged at Sugu's pants, and said, "Can we keep a dog in the governor's mansion?" No. Kong Xiang showed expectant eyes, she was just a girl after all. Although they were told by Joan of Arc yesterday that men and women should not be intimate, they were clinging to Sugu again today. After all, they didn't have much idea about men and women. Although under normal circumstances, if someone wants to touch their head in a lewd manner, their legs will be kicked off. But if you just think the girl is cute, give her a few compliments, and pat her head, it means nothing to the ship girl, even if she is not an admiral. Sugu saw Kong Xiang pulling up his pants and said, "The hamster I bought for you last time was raised to death by you. They looked fat. I thought they weren't hungry, but who knew they died after not being fed for a few days. You have the nerve to say that I haven't been fed for such a long time. I should at least feed him some corn grains." Kong Xiang knocked back and said, "The admiral didn't remind me either." Of course Sugu didn't allow it. Xiaozai pulled off the clothes of Fantasia. She didn't have much interest in raising small animals. But since Nuangxiang likes her, then there's no problem, they are good friends. Xiaozai said, "Admiral, you always have no time to accompany us. It's so lonely. I want to raise a puppy to accompany me." Sugu looked at Xiaozai and thought that you are getting more and more powerful. He said, "I spend the most time with you. Well, if you are lonely, then I will ask your sister Bazai to spend more time with you." Saratoga was walking at the front. When she saw a few people dawdling behind, she shouted, "Brother-in-law, brother-in-law, hurry up." She just called her brother-in-law, and when Sugu walked up, she held Sugu's hand. For a while, there were some looks of disdain, but more of them were looks of envy. Sisters, of course, make people envious. Seeing that Sugu was confused with the two little girls, Saratoga complained, "You promised that the two of us would come out this time, but why did you bring Xiaozai and Fangxiang with you? You just stayed with them." Saratoga was naturally unhappy after Bismarck was overthrown, so Sugu could only agree to his sister-in-law's request. But the little girl wanted to come out together, and he couldn't refuse. Sugu said, "They want to come out. Don't you have evil intentions and want to please the little girl?" "Of course not. Xiaozai, Xiaozai has been with you for the longest time. Xianxiang is a little princess, super cute, especially a pair of feet. Last time, let me think about it, the last time you didn't lie on the bed, and then let Xianxiang take off your shoes and step on your back. You brought them out because you asked them to do terrible things." Saratoga stretched out her hands, pointed at Sugu with one finger on each hand, and said, "Big pervert." Sugu quickly said, "I asked Kong to step on my back, but it was just for a massage." Saratoga ignored it and chuckled. "I bought a fan, then finally found an ice cream machine, and finally went to the fruit wholesale market. The things I bought along the way are temporarily stored in the store. A small amount of things will be picked up when I leave. A large amount of things will be delivered to the dock in the afternoon, and then they will be loaded onto the yacht together. I bought some big things along the way. Even though it was a hot day, I still wanted to take everyone to have some fun. Utopia, you know? We used to live on the street in front of us. This is where Fletcher used to work. She used to sell newspapers. She is your role model and a good sister. Get out of the way, there's a car, is it time to go to school now? There are many students pushing bicycles on the roadside. Except for the Naval Academy, this is a city after all, and there will certainly be no shortage of junior high schools and high schools. No matter how important the role of ship girls is in the city, in the final analysis, ordinary people are the foundation of the city compared to the number of ship girls." Passing by a bookstore, there were books not suitable for children. Although Bazai asked many times, he would not buy them back for her. Passing by another furniture store, Sugu heard Saratoga's voice, "Let's buy cabinets." "Why? Brother-in-law, what do you think of me lying naked on top of the cupboard wearing an apron?" Saratoga talks a lot and never fulfills her promise once. Sugu has become accustomed to his sister-in-law and doesn't take her seriously. At 2 o'clock, Sugu took everyone to a roadside restaurant, which was close to the pier. Everyone was sitting at the dining table, and before the food was served, Saratoga looked at the huge cruise ship on the seashore. She suddenly said, "Our yacht is too small. It would be great if there was a big ship. If it's a big ship, it's very troublesome to maneuver it, and it requires a lot of people. But it feels good. We bought a big ship, and then everyone lived on the big ship. The big ship became our garrison. The big ship can sail everywhere and dock in any city at any time. Anyway, as long as everyone is here, there will be nothing the enemy can defeat us. We go to see the cherry blossoms in the spring and the heavy snow in the winter. One time we go to the west, another time we go to the east, we see whales and penguins. We all live together happily, and I feel so happy." Saratoga said this, and Sugu also felt that it was a good idea. It's just that compared to the garrison, a big ship still has a lot of troubles. After all, the idea is just an idea, and there is probably no chance of it being realized. Saratoga held her face in her hands, imagining the possibilities of the future, with a happy expression on her face. She looked like a girl at this time. But she didn't think about it for too long, and the dish she just ordered was served. "Gaga, this is your sashimi." After spending half a day shopping in Chuangzhou and playing for an afternoon, the yacht loaded with goods sailed towards the Larry mansion. The yacht docked, and there were people waiting there early. A floor fan was taken away from each room, and the rest of the things were moved to the warehouse. The next day, Sugu was installing a ceiling fan in the public canteen. The ceiling fan needed to be rewired and installed. "Gia, hold on to the herringbone ladder. It's so high, but it's better to be higher. It's too short and makes people feel oppressed." Prince Eugen handed me the hammer and the nails. "It's so troublesome. Once I install this one, I won't install it anymore. I'll just use floor fans for all of them. Brother-in-law, let me tell you, a floor fan is better. Look at Santiago, she is wearing a short skirt, blown up by the fan, and her underwear is white. Santiago joins in the fun. She stands in front of a floor fan, which blows the hem of her skirt up and Saratoga sees her panties. Gia, don't be ridiculous." Despite his words, Sugu swung the hammer and looked at Santiago, who was covering his skirt. I thought, yes, I only considered a little bit, not too much. But Gia, you should talk to me about this kind of thing alone. Sugu glanced at Santiago for a few times, reluctant to leave. Prince Eugen said from the side, "Admiral, I will tell my sister if you look like this." "Prince Eugen, you can say that I will arrange for you to go on an expedition tomorrow, but Bismarck will not go." Prince Eugen said decisively, "Admiral, you are my best admiral." Lily, fight with me." Sugu was installing a ceiling fan, and there were actually several people standing next to him, including Kent. Kent, did you get a fan?" "Nobody told me, I didn't know." "No one told you, don't you know how to get it yourself? If others have it, you must have it too, and you can't be left alone. Fan, you go to Leipzig to get it. If you feel embarrassed, then I will get it for you. Go inside the room." Kent nodded, looked weak, and sighed. Sugu added, "We bought several large boxes of green mangoes. If you want to eat, go and get them." After saying that, Sugu added, "Tomorrow we will go to the county town to buy some watermelon. Watermelon is good. Cut an opening, and then dig it out slowly with a spoon." Sugu showed a longing expression, and Prince Eugen said, "Admiral, you are very good at eating. In terms of enjoyment, none of you can compare to me. This is not something to show off." He. Time went on simply like this, and after a few days, it was mid-July. In the past few days, the Naval Academy in Chuangzhou is planning to recruit new students again. Zeppelin has gone to the academy these days and does not live in the garrison. In the past few days, Sugu saw Bismarck's swimsuit for the first time and felt very good. At noon on the 17th, Sigsby did something. She said to Amethyst, "This is a game for the brave, only you can bear it." Amethyst is just a little middle class, she is an honest child. Then she was buried in the sand by Sigsby, with only her head exposed. A watermelon was placed on Amethyst's head, and several Destroyer primary school students stood nearby holding French baguettes. Amethyst was frightened and cried for the first time. In the end, Helena found out about this and decided to give Sigsby a punishment of writing "I will never play pranks again," 1,000 times. That evening, Sugu sat on a large rock near the governor's mansion. Lafayette was picking up shells next to him, Nguyen Liang was holding his surfboard, and Sigsby was still copying. In the evening, the weather was no longer so hot, and Sugu hugged Xiaozai. "Admiral, there are many people in the garrison now, but there is still a lot to be desired." Sugu looked at the evening sky and said, "Yes." "Where are they?" "I don't know. Where is everyone?" "I don't know, the world is so big after all." Xiaozai said again, "Who knows? God knows." In mid-July, all over the world, there was a beautiful adult woman alone in a remote city. She was standing in an old bookstore. She was flipping through the yellowed old books on the bookcase, trying to find those books from the old world. There was a little girl shouting "Admiral, Admiral" at the pier, and then a little Shiba Inu ran out from nowhere. She picked up the little Shiba Inu and said, "Admiral, you actually hid under the table." An adult standing by said, "Don't call Admiral Huang." The little girl retorted, "The Admiral left on his own. He promised never to leave us. If he doesn't keep his promise, he is just a puppy." Someone was holding a recipe book, and then added star anise, mustard, sugar, starch, light soy sauce to the pot in front of him. He added all the seasonings on hand. After a long time, he opened the pot and found a dark pot. Cuisine. Someone cut his long hair into short hair, picked up a deep-sea destroyer with one hand and smashed it into the water, which looked extremely violent. She now has a nickname, Bloody Mary, Scrappy Mary. On this day, a ship docked at the dock in Fujian City. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 368. It was another sunny day and another sweltering day. Li Zhen, an employee of a company in Fujian City, sat by the window. He unbuttoned several buttons of his white shirt, stretched out his hand and put one hand on the window eaves, leaning his whole body against the window, praying for some cool breeze at this time. Although many new products have been launched, air conditioners are still a luxury item, and even the company boss does not have one in his office. In the huge office, only the ceiling fan hanging from the ceiling was spinning feebly. As for the other things, the only floor fan that didn't move its head was moved to her side by a female colleague. As a man, it's hard to get angry. The sound of cicadas chirping came from outside the window, squeaking and squeaking, it kept ringing. The weather was hot and the cicadas were chirping. Li Zhen was sitting in the office, thinking about where to go to cool off after get off work. Ronghu Park is also a seaside beach, and Rongshu Park has a very good night view. As a citizen, you don't need a ticket to enter. But there are many beauties in bikinis on the beach, and he is still a bachelor. Well, in fact, there are most fat aunties and old men on the beach. Xiao Li. Before Li Zhen could fully imagine, a slightly cold voice came over. He knew who the owner of that voice was, and he slandered in his heart that old women in menopausal age would not marry for the sake of their careers. They were obviously too ugly and fierce to get married. However, no matter how slanderous you are in your heart, you still have to be honest on the surface. After scolding and ordering, he got a task to go to Beigong in Fujian City to pick up someone, who was a big customer related to the company. You are obviously a customs declarer, why would you do such a thing? But there is no other way. Small companies just have a lot of helplessness. They don't want to work without having a lot of people waiting behind them every minute. I reluctantly took the car keys from the company, thinking that there would be more and more things to do, but the salary would not be much. I should have known better than to say that I could drive. Who told me to show off in front of others? How stupid. After being warned carefully again, he drove for more than 10 minutes and finally arrived at the dock in Baigong. Baigong in Fujian City is where various passenger ships dock. After all, it is an international metropolis, and countless people flock in every day, including businessmen, gold mining workers, diplomatic ambassadors, and ordinary tourists. Ordinary people take ordinary passenger ships and sit in third class, while wealthy people consider luxury cruises, where they have all the food, drinks, and entertainment available, and they don't worry about the boring journey at all. Amid the shouts of the sailors, a luxury cruise ship docked at the pier. This cruise ship sailed from North America and passed many days along the way. Just from the appearance, this cruise ship is much smaller than ordinary large luxury cruise ships, and it also looks a bit strange. Anyone with a little knowledge can tell with the naked eye that this is a luxury cruise ship converted from a battleship. It has heavy armor that ordinary cruise ships cannot match. There is no place to have fun, but safety is the most important thing. No one wants to die at sea. Such heavy armor brings incomparable defense. Deep-sea ship girls attacking ships may not necessarily kill all humans, but if they are attacked, who can guarantee that they will not be affected? The heavy armor can defend against most attacks, coupled with the escort of the ship's wife and double insurance. The selling point of this cruise ship is not only luxury but also safety. Of course, while being luxurious and safe, tickets for such a cruise ship have always been very expensive. As a local, Li Zhen knew something about it. But the guests he was waiting for were not the passengers on this ship. Most of the passengers on this ship were dignitaries. But he himself is in a small company, and the guests he has to receive are important, but in fact, compared to the real rich people, it is just the same thing. Although the guests he wanted to pick up were not passengers of the cruise ship, it did not prevent him from enjoying it. Although the times have become outdated, large ships and cannons have always been men's favorite. Although a battleship can also be said to be a big ship and a huge cannon, compared to the thrilling pressure brought by a real battleship, the feeling of a battleship is nothing more than beauty. Large ships and huge guns are a man's romance. Although he is not a soldier, seeing this cruise ship, which was originally a battleship, although it does not have a huge gun barrel, the hull of the ship makes people's hearts surge. In fact, he was not the only one who was shocked. Some people looked at such a cruise ship and also expressed admiration. He turned his head and looked over. They were the workers standing next to him, 2 young dock workers. I really want to experience it on this kind of ship. Your salary for a year of hard work can almost be enough to experience it once, but it is still only enough for a boat ticket, and you can't buy anything on it. If you can't buy it, you can't buy it. It's such a handsome ship. 1, 2, 3. Why are there only 3 floors? Because it was a real battleship in the past and was later converted into a cruise ship. That person standing on the deck is so beautiful. You can see clearly from such a distance, that's a ship girl, of course she's beautiful. I want to marry one. As he said this, he was patted on the head, and his companion said, "You are overthinking, let's just move the boxes honestly. I may not be able to become an admiral." Standing nearby, Li Zhen was a little amused when he heard such a conversation. Countless people made bold statements, and a few succeeded. When I was a child, I wanted to be a scientist and a generalissimo, but now I am just a small customs declarer. There is one saying that he quite agrees with, those ship girls are indeed so beautiful, it seems like just marry one of them. Every man has an idea about beautiful ship girls. However, compared with the number of people in the entire world, what is the proportion of ship girls? 1/10,000th. 1 in 100,000. Millionth. No one has statistics on the specific proportion. There are too many ship girls hiding in society as ordinary people. Although some people are hiding, one thing is for sure, the number of people is very few. Besides, there are many admirals who occupy many ship girls by themselves, and there are many female admirals who waste the resources of ship girls. The luxury cruise ship is docked at the dock, and the dock workers are getting ready to work. At the same time, there is a casino on the bottom deck of the cruise ship. The casino is luxuriously decorated and the fresh air system is very good. Even though many people smoke, it does not look smoky. Although the cruise ship has docked, there are still many people staying here with red eyes. They see the red and green ships in front of them getting more and more or less. Some are angry, some are confused, some are happy, and some are indifferent. This is what the so-called life is like. Inside the casino, there are gamblers, waiters, security guards, and many people. There is a girl with slightly curly blonde hair wearing a white shirt and a black vest. She is the croupier of the casino here. She stood in front of the gamblers in a serious and unsmiling manner from beginning to end, dealing cards or changing chips with skillful techniques. Girls are very beautiful, and generally speaking, all men want to kiss her. However, those who know that this is not an existence that they can make decisions about. Although the blonde girl looks like an ordinary person, she is an out-and-out ship girl. If a person wants to take action against the ship girl, but his force is not enough, he will be beaten into a pulp by the ship girl's punch. If you want to exert pressure in other aspects, then you have to face countless pressures from ship girls and admirals. Even if you are a senior executive of a large company or an official somewhere, you are still a small figure in the face of the huge forces all over the world. Moreover, if too much mental pressure turns a ship girl into a deep-sea ship girl, it will be a disaster. If you want to do something to a ship girl, you can only use sweet words, but the other party can always easily see through your heart, unless you are true love. The gamblers have no idea about the beautiful dealer. They are playing cards with peace of mind, or counting their chips, or thinking about when to get off the boat, and they can't delay it any longer. But the casino is too attractive. Don't be in a hurry to get off the ship. After all, when the cruise ship docks, it will be a casino on the sea. For gamblers, casinos are extremely attractive, but not necessarily for others. The cruise ship docked, and the beautiful croupier with blonde hair and slightly curly hair didn't stay long. Someone came to take over soon after, and she was happy to change her shift quickly. There was central air conditioning inside the casino, but not outside. After leaving the casino, she took off her outermost black vest as she walked. It was hot. At this time, a little girl ran over and said, "Sister Princeton, the ship has docked." "I know. Why does sister want to be a dealer?" "It's okay. Can't you take a good rest? It's not work, it's just fun. It's like you and them playing hide and seek. I feel tired too, but you are happy." Seeing the little girl next to him purse her lips, Princeton stretched out his hand and waved it in front of the little girl, and then said, "False and false, true and false, look." The girl named Princeton waved her hand in front of the little girl, and a lot of playing cards suddenly appeared in her hand. It was completely unclear how the playing cards appeared. The little girl screamed when she saw this scene. "Sister is so awesome." Princeton said proudly, "I used to be a magician for a long time. In the past, he was a wandering magician who made a living by performing street magic. I like to perform hat tricks and do magic tricks like taking doves or rabbits out of hats. It's just a pity that in today's society, there are only a few people who watch performances on the streets and have spare money to reward them. It's not that she can't do other jobs. As a ship girl, she can find many better jobs than being a magician. The main reason for becoming a magician is that for her, the admiral is gone, so she really doesn't have much to pursue. She is not the kind of hedonist who can simply make a living. In other aspects, it would be best if she could create a little happiness for others or herself. I came to work on the cruise ship only because I met a sister who was also in my garrison and was introduced here, so I became a guard on the cruise ship. Guarding is a job, not a hobby. The hobby is to do some interesting things, such as being a croupier on a luxury cruise ship casino in your spare time. It is purely for fun. Princeton performed many more magic tricks, turning one playing card into two or disappearing. Amazing! The little girl screamed. In fact, she had seen this performance many times, but she still screamed every time, just like the little girl she had been for many years. But even though she has been a little girl for a long time, she has been working for a long time. After all, there is no such thing as child labor among ship girls. Princeton did not continue to perform magic tricks, and the little girl said, "This time we finally finished the work, and we can rest for a long time. Now, where are we going to play? I went through a lot of battles along the way, and it was really hard. But fortunately I didn't encounter the deep sea flagship, otherwise I would have failed. I said this route is not good, but it is a pity that I can't find a good route. The main reason is that there are no good routes on this route. There are few islands, and there are two Larry buildings on those islands. Forget it, let's not talk about it, anyway, just come over now and rest." Yes, rest, this is the most common topic, whether it is for adults or children. Now they have been working on this cruise ship for a long time. No one can work forever without taking a break, not ordinary people, not even ship girls. Even the maids known for their excellent work ability among the ship girls, the renown and the counter-attack are not good at it. When ordinary people work, most waiters get 2 or 4 days of rest a month. Those who work in ordinary companies mostly get 1 day of rest a week. Employees who work in large companies or governments have 2 days of rest a week. Generally speaking, the job of a ship girl is easier. After all, ship girls are rare. If one ship girl leaves, it will be difficult to find another ship girl to take her place. It's so rare to meet a wandering ship girl, and if you do, you won't come just because you invite her. Those ship girls with admirals are even less likely to follow your ship everywhere. After all, staying by your admiral's side is what a ship girl likes the most. Even if you eat chaffy vegetables, you must stay by your admiral's side. Of course, although their job is not easy, there are dignitaries on the ship. For safety, it is necessary to patrol the sea at all times. But the salary for such a job is still very high, and you don't have to worry about food or drink, and you don't lack anything. Just a few trips are enough to buy a house in a big city. Although we are usually busy, the cruise ship docks and we can rest for many days, which is exciting enough. Finally we've reached the shore. Sister Princeton hasn't said yet where are we going to play. Princeton hesitated and said, "I can't go out with you. I have 2 friends." "Oh, that's it." The little girl was a little disappointed, and Princeton touched her head. After saying goodbye to the little girl, Princeton walked out of the cabin, and then saw 2 women lying on the side of the guardrail in the corridor. They looked like mariachi musicians. One of them has long pink hair and carries a black guitar case. The other one has long blue hair and carries an electronic keyboard. They are 2 sisters, but their hair colors are different. If they were humans, it would be enough for outsiders to think of their parents, but they were still ship girls. They waited here for a long time, and when they saw Princeton, they said, "Rabbit, Rabbit, this is Fujiang City, right? Where should we go? Let's go see the raider first. She opened a candy store here. The last time the Hornet asked me to borrow a carrier-based aircraft to exercise with the raider, it was here. Then I went with her, and then she failed miserably. Well, the location is not here, it's a little further away, called Zyazu. Anyway, let's go over there first and see if the attackers are there." The raider runs a candy store and works as a ship girl mercenary at the same time. She carries a B-25 and an A-2. She likes to trick people the most. She requires others to replenish resources. If she consumes them again and again, she will be eaten up. Bumblebee is very persistent about its bombers. Haha, let's not talk about it anymore, let's go to Alaska and Guam. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 369. Speaking of which, how do casinos make money? How do casinos make money? Alaska, you ask me, why do you think of asking this? First of all, there are actuaries. No matter how you calculate it, in terms of probability, the banker wins more. However, with a large amount of turnover, in the big casino with the support of data, you must be making money. In addition, the casino will also take 5% of the water, which is a lot of money. Besides gambling, the things sold in the casino are very expensive, several times or even 10 times the value outside. A cocktail costs this amount, but it's only a small amount of money. Guam asked, I've seen a movie, are there really gambling saints in casinos? I have never met anyone who only wins but never loses. I have heard of some people who lost all their money, then borrowed loan sharks, and finally jumped from the boat into the sea. The jumping into the sea must have caused quite a big fuss. Those rich people, except for those who are rich, sometimes just like ordinary people. How much do you get paid as a dealer? Alas, like Guam, was invited to join the cruise ship's escort, and the salary of the escort was known early on. Princeton is different. While working as a guard, she is also a croupier at the cruise ship casino. No one knows her salary as a croupier. The salary is average, mainly based on tips. Alaska, carrying the guitar case on his back, remembered the rumors he had heard before, and said mysteriously, "Did someone ask you to sleep with me? What, if you play in a bar, will you do a striptease?" Of course not. In fact, many people have hinted to me that there is a lot of money if you sleep with me, and there are also croupiers in casinos who do this kind of thing. You can see through those extraordinary people. Princeton said, even if you know that he is cheating, but you don't know how to cheat, you can't just talk nonsense. How long have you been working as a dealer on a cruise ship? It's been almost a year. Didn't you want to be a homeless street magician before? Washington invited me to be an escort. Didn't she also invite you and you agreed? The main reason why we do it is because we can play in the bar on the cruise ship, where there are so many instruments. The three people were talking and walking together on the streets of Fujian City. Alaska has long pink hair, Guam has long blue hair, and Princeton has blonde hair that is slightly curly and hangs down to her shoulders. Their hair colors are different and they look a bit independent. However, even so, the hair color is not that dazzling, completely different from those inferior colors dyed with dyes. Even for passers-by who are used to seeing black hair, they don't think it looks out of place. On the contrary, they feel that the hair color should be like this, giving people a natural feeling. They did not take the city tram. Instead, they walked casually on the street, crossing the streets and alleys, talking while walking. Along the way, I looked at dozens of tall buildings, beautiful glass curtain walls, and huge billboards. While talking, I walked through the exhibition booths, chattering about how much the handicrafts on the booths cost, and then bought some snacks on the roadside, including octopus balls and grilled chicken wings. I just saw that hat studded with silver jewelry. It's very expensive, but it's very beautiful. I heard that the prices of these things at the exhibition are all randomly marked, and no one will buy them anyway. Passing by a high-rise building with a commercial plaza next to it, Guam looked at a long queue in front of a store and asked, "What are they selling there?" "It's something to eat, I'm not sure, it seems like sesame cakes. Although he wanted to taste it, there was a long queue in front of him. After thinking about it, Princeton said, "Aren't you tired of carrying the guitar case and keyboard on your back?" Alaska hugged Princeton's neck, reached behind his back and patted his guitar case, saying, "This is the only one I can't leave." At noon, the cruise ship docked, and it took more than half an hour to pack up and get out of the cruise ship. From Bagong to South Station, one goes to the south and one to the north. It seems very far, but it is actually different from the train station. The pier is definitely on the seaside. Although it is said to be one in the south and the other in the north, it is very quick to walk along the seaside streets and only need to pass through a small half of the city. When we found the community called Zaizu and the attacker's candy store, the weather was still hot. Standing under a large locust tree, Alaska put her long hair in front of her body and said, "I really want to cut my hair short, but I feel like I have no personality at all. This is where the raiders live. Yeah, this is where most ship girls like to live. I've stayed here several times and it's very quiet. Even in a big city, you can still hear the chirping of birds and a large group of sparrows here in the morning. Standing on the wire. In the spring, swallows come to build their nests. Anyway, it's a very nice place. Look ahead. It's just ahead. Less than 50 meters away, that's the Raiders' candy shop. I'll take you with me. Come here, she will be happy." Princeton said this, imagining the smiling face of the attacker. However, when they found the candy store where the attacker was, they only saw a closed shop. Guam said, "No one is here. Go out." She occasionally goes out to perform tasks. Otherwise, if she just relies on her to open a candy store, it will definitely close down due to poor management. Bumblebee and Northampton come here often. Bumblebee comes here, and she eats the Raiders. Those who live in Raiders are just wondering why I didn't see the sign saying the business was temporarily closed. Is it really still open? I see there is absolutely nothing inside. Alaska stood by the window of the candy store. The door was closed and the window was also closed, but the curtains didn't seem to be closed. She looked through the gap in the curtains and could see that the counters inside had been emptied. If it is just closed, there should at least be some products inside. But all the products on the shelves and counters were empty, and it didn't look like it had been stolen or looted. The trays were even put together properly. Princeton also ran to the window. The inside of the candy store was indeed like what Alaska said. After a long time, she made a meaningless sound. "It's true. Princeton, you can change it into a key. Magic is just a cover-up. If you can change a key, you need magic." 3 beautiful girls stood at the door, with many people around to see them. Although there are many ship girls living in this community called Zaizu, most of them are ordinary people of all kinds. There is a canteen opposite the candy store. The owner of the canteen was standing under a tree watching people playing chess. When he saw a few people from Princeton, he walked over. "It's closed. This store is not open." Closed. That day, several people moved everything in the store to a boat. I asked her about it, and she said she was going home, and then left. It has been closed for many days now. Do you know where you went? Have no idea. Shaking his head like this, the owner of the canteen continued to go back to watch people playing chess. Alaska said, "Why did the raider move?" Have no idea. Doubts appeared in my mind, and I didn't have any ideas after thinking about it. Alaska said, "It's just like when everyone in the garrison parted ways. Lexington, Saratoga, Tennessee, Essex, everyone left without leaving any contact. This was the case in the past. The raiders are still like this now. In the final analysis we are only connected because of the admiral and the garrison." Guam said, "Sister, you are saying these profound things again. I was a little disappointed not to find the attacker, but things were already like this there was nothing we could do. Several people subconsciously avoid things related to the past because they are all sad things. Not long after, I was walking on the way to the center of Fujian City. I thought of my friends and sisters from the past, and how we were all separated from each other. I still felt a little melancholy. Alaska broke the silence and said, "Where do you think the raiders went?" "Go home." "But where do we have a home?" Home has a broad meaning. For a ship girl who already has an admiral, the place where the admiral is home, and the place where people can feel at ease is home. Maybe someone asked them to leave. "By the way, do you know where Colorado is?" "Not sure." "Before." Alaska said, suddenly stopped, and said, "Shhh, the car behind seems to be following us." Several people turned around and saw a black car slowly following them. When they stopped and waited on the side of the road to see what was going on, the black car parked next to them. How do I get to Binjiang Road? Princeton has spent a lot of time in Fujian City and is quite familiar with the entire city. If the other party wanted to go to Binjiang Road, he would go in the opposite direction. She said, "Go back, turn left, then keep walking until you see the street sign and then turn." The man in his 30s wearing sunglasses showed a somewhat embarrassed expression and said, "We're going completely wrong. It looks very troublesome to reverse here, can you help me look behind me?" "I'm going to reverse. This street can only carry 2 cars at most. It's a bit troublesome to back up." It's normal to ask someone to help you to avoid hitting the wall when backing up. The man's expression was sincere, and only he knew what he was thinking. Beautiful women are walking on the street, cowards and nerds. They have wild thoughts in their minds but dare not take another step. Even if they take a glance, they quickly turn their heads for fear of being noticed. For those who are now rich, who are eloquent and have some conditions at home, they have already gone up to strike up a conversation. Alaska could see what the man was thinking at a glance. She patted the hood of the black car and said, "It's not that troublesome. The road here is quite narrow and my rear view mirror is not good. It's not that I won't help you." "Well, just sit in the car, just turn the front of the car around." "That's right. Guam, you go to the back." Hearing the pink-haired beauty's words, the man showed some confusion. Then he saw the pink-haired beauty and the blue-haired beauty. They walked to the front and rear of the car one after another. Then there was a shaking, and he saw his car flying up, and the 2 beauties lifted his car and turned around. After turning around like this, he saw the pink-haired beauty clapped her hands, and then heard a slightly bored voice, "You're welcome." 2 weak-looking women carried their car and turned around. The man seemed a little confused for a moment. In short, it was a very magical experience. He drove away like this, and vaguely heard a voice saying, "I want to come over and strike up a conversation," and his face suddenly turned red with embarrassment. After solving the so-called tracking matter, the 3 people continued walking. Who is he? He doesn't know how to strike up a conversation. Awesome skills. When we were moving his car, I saw his stupid expression. It was so funny. Smiling like this dispelled the slightly sad atmosphere just now because the raiders had moved. Then they walked around the city center and didn't buy anything in the end. When we returned to the cruise ship in the evening, we separated. Alaska and Guam returned to their rooms, and Princeton's room was in a different place from them. Princeton performed magic tricks along the way, waving his hand and playing cards appeared in his hand. Then he waved his hand again, and the playing cards disappeared again. The skillful movements are enough to make people startle. Unfortunately, there are no ordinary people in the place where the ship girls live, and they are in a separate area of the cruise ship. Before Princeton could reach his room, he was suddenly stopped by a voice. "Rabbit." Princeton turned around and saw a woman in her 30s. She was average in appearance but had a very good temperament. That was the supervisor of their escort team, named Wei Lian. I heard that he was an admiral in the past, but he stopped being an admiral later, and then he simply became a guard here. If you say he is a guard, to be more precise, you should say he is a manager. Many of the ship girls in those escorts were her ship girls, but of course she was not. Although I don't know why I didn't become an admiral and switch to doing this, but everyone has their own difficulties. We went out to play for a long time. How was it? Where did you go? I looked for my former companions, but I couldn't find them. The two people walked side by side in the corridor of the cruise ship. Wei Lian said in surprise, looking for companions, the raiders you mentioned before? You, Alaska, Guam, and the previous Northampton and Hornet. It is said that Washington is also, there are your companions in Fujian City, your previous garrison was powerful enough. Princeton nodded, the garrison was very powerful, everyone was very nice, but the admiral was a bit bad. So what is the admiral who is said to be very bad doing? He was telling people a story and held the cute little pink-haired girl in his arms tightly. Ahem, if you want to hear Sister Meow's story, that's fine too. But you can't tell it to others, I'll just tell you, my little house. Who can't stand it, beg for mercy. Bismarck shouted, hey. You are a broken man. If you just fight me to the end, the SA family will spare you. Now you are begging for mercy from me, the SA family will not spare you. Another shot, on the ammunition depot. It was like a fireworks show, with the fort exploding, the mast breaking, and fireworks going out. When Bismarck looked at it, he saw Hood standing on the ground, with only the air coming out of his mouth and no air coming in, unable to move. Bismarck said hypocritically, you cheated to death, Sagia will beat her again. But the skin gradually changed. Bismarck thought, I only hope to beat this guy, I don't want to kill her with 3 rounds of fire. Sagia will be sued, go. There was no one in the gendarmerie to deliver food, so it was better to leave as soon as possible. He walked away, turned around and pointed at Huda's corpse and said, you are cheating your death, Sagia, and you will take your time and take care of it. One scolded and the other strode away. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 370. The weather is getting hotter and hotter, and the garrison is built in the south. When I first chose the town fort, I considered the hot weather, and at that time I planned to use air conditioning or a fan to survive the heat. However, it is impossible to cover everything. Thinking about it now, I was really naive at the time. Every hot day is a torment. To put it in one sentence, I don't even want to do things on such a hot day, and even if a perfect girl comes to me, I have no interest. Of course, this sentence is a bit exaggerated. If Lexington or Bismarck came over, Sugu would still not act like a gentleman. If Xiao Zai and Kong Kong wanted to come over, Sugu still wouldn't mind turning into the big bad wolf and rubbing their faces crazily. Hot weather has many disadvantages. For example, you will sweat profusely even if you do a little exercise. If you are exposed to the sun for a long time, you will easily suffer from heat stroke. Outdoor activities for primary school students have gradually turned into indoor activities. However, hot weather also has many benefits. The hot weather makes the girls in the town hall dress cool, even the originally conservative Exeter. The hot pants and short skirts exposed the long and white legs of the ship girls, and the beautiful arms under the sleeveless dresses were infinitely tempting. Anyway, all of them were beautiful. Just like Lafayette, he is wearing a sleeveless sailor suit with a navel exposed, hot pants and a big belt, just like the vertical painting in the original game, with infinite vitality and youthful appearance. Just like the cute submarines U-47, U-81, and U-505, they are dressed like dead stock all day long. Just like Bismarck, wearing a vest and revealing deep ravines on the chest, he looks sexy. In this kind of weather, if there is no sortie mission, the ship girls don't mind swimming, and then this is another swimsuit show. Helena's swimsuit, the Prince of Wales's swimsuit. The only thing that was disappointing was probably Bazi. Even if she was called to the beach, she was more interested in sitting under the parasol. Then he looked left and right, his eyes flickering, probably thinking about some plot that was not suitable for children. Although Bismarck has strictly supervised her, no one can control another person's life if they want to. Bazi has already imagined a lot of swimsuit adultery plots. In Bazi, Sugu had never seen her wet state. Sugu could still swim when he had nothing to do, but he often got into the water. Even as an admiral, he was still pulled by the submarines and played pranks on him several times. Of course, he is not that easy to deal with. He was dragged into the water by U-47 and pretended to be dead. Then something like this frightened the submarine to the point of almost crying. What should I do? It's all a prank on you, U-47, and do you need artificial respiration? Sugu had no choice but to wake up when he heard the cries. Although I had some thoughts in my mind, I was not so perverted as to actually trick the young girl into giving artificial respiration to the submarine. He had good intentions, but when he woke up, what greeted him was U-47's fancy fists and embroidered legs. Life is not just about enduring brutal weather, it is also not just about having fun. There are too many documents and reports. During this time, Sugu was dealing with his own affairs, including preliminary plans to transform the garrison, arranging attack missions and expedition missions, including a lot of chores. The Enterprise hopes to transfer the files of our garrison to her, saying that it will help us solve many things. She really has this idea, it doesn't matter. Speaking of which, York City and Bumblebee have always wanted to go there and take a look. Enterprise, let them go to the Enterprise to have a look. But they are not reliable. If they go, Helena should lead the team and discuss any preliminary intentions. Let San Juan go on the expedition. Who will arrange the other tasks? How about Blucher? Kepelin, if you ask me if I can arrange for newcomers to intern in our townhouse, I have no problem. Although I said that, I actually thought selfishly that it would be best not to have anyone come. Several strangers came to the town hall, and I always felt a little uncomfortable. The town hall is not a company, but a home. But of course Sugu also knew that the ship girl's current status was the reason why countless admirals united to help each other. Just like when I first met Eugene, the other party invited me to stay in the town guard mansion for several days and told me many things that needed to be paid attention to. Sugu didn't refuse such a thing, he agreed, but Zeppelin suddenly started to object again. Zeppelin, what do you mean? You actually said that I am a useless admiral. You said that most of the things in the garrison are arranged by Lexington, and most of the things are counterattacked. I want to do it too, but they don't allow it. Still, any newcomer who comes to my garrison will be harmed. There are so many ship girls, what can I do? No, I want to say, the more ship girls, the better. If life continues like this, it will probably be a very happy thing. There is the gentle Lexington, the sister-in-law who belongs to half of her, Bismarck who looks serious and cold but is like a cat at heart, and the cutest little house. Admiral, Admiral, we have to get up and run. This was the dreamy voice of the white-haired little destroyer princess. Admiral, I'm getting up first. Here's your good morning kiss. This was the voice of MRS Lexington in her nightgown. It's time to get up, Admiral. Do you want to see? Prince Eugene's eyes roll. This was the voice of Bismarck, who had neat short hair. Xiaozai, it's time to get up. This was Sugu's voice. This is Sugu's normal waking up routine. Someone has prepared breakfast when you wake up in the morning. If you want, you can find a cute little maid to help you when you get up and change clothes. After breakfast, go to the office to process documents. Although there are many things, with Lexington, many things can also be entrusted to Zeppelin. Although he is not weak, he is not very powerful either. When faced with the documents Lexington brings and the methods he gives, most of the time he just signs. However, for Sugu, his mission is not only that, but also has a particularly important mission, which is to find the former ship girl. After considering the rumors of defeating the deep-sea flagship in the past, Richelieu should not be the only one to hear such rumors. But as Richelieu said, she just happened to hear such a rumor. Maybe for many people, it's not that perfect. In fact, I also thought of some ways, such as returning to the ruins of the former garrison. Although I didn't know if it would be regarded as a prank, I still left a message there: wherever the town hall was moved, the admiral has returned. If anyone would see such a message, maybe they could retrieve it. The surrounding garrison offices have all asked if there was any news about the wandering ship girl. Although they only asked once, they stopped asking if there was no useful information. Of course, no matter how strong your will is, you will sometimes forget your mission. After all, Sugu is just an ordinary man. However, when I counterattack, I occasionally mention that my sister's reputation has gone. She is the perfect and chic head maid. Akage would occasionally ask why Kaga didn't come back, even if York came back. And Akatsuki Raiden, well, it should be said that Akatsuki trusted Raiden and missed them a little. It's a pity that some things can't be realized just by thinking about it, and there are still no clues about them. On the afternoon of July 19th, Sugu finished his official duties and slept on a lounge chair by the beach wearing beach pants. There is a round table next to the lounge chair, and a glass of iced plum juice is placed on the round table. He wanted to sleep on the recliner and heard vague sounds. Brother-in-law, not counting the little girl, among the girls, the one who liked to stick to him the most was Saratoga. Saratoga was wearing a bikini. Except for her height, she had a figure that was not inferior to Lexington. At this time, she was standing in front of Sugu. "Brother-in-law, this is my new swimsuit, how do you like it?" Sugu was already immune to beautiful women to a large extent, so he responded casually, very beautiful, very beautiful. It's so perfunctory, you weren't like that when you looked at Helena's swimsuit that day. Although you are not weak, you are still a little worse than Helena. The only person who can compare with Helena is the Prince of Wales. But even though I was very familiar with Saratoga, so familiar that I was almost burnt, I still couldn't say these words. It would not be a good thing to offend the weird Saratoga. Sugu said, "You are different from Helena. You are more beautiful than Helena. Talking about people when seeing people, talking about ghosts when seeing ghosts." Fortunately, Helena was not around, and then caused the Shura field. Saratoga smiled. She squatted beside the recliner, put her hands on the armrests of the recliner, and looked into the distance. There were many people. Bumblebee actually bought an inflatable carrier-based aircraft B-25. She really missed the B-25 like crazy. Those Yorktown bought her. Such inflatable toys can only be bought in Chuangziu. After all, only Chuangziu's manufacturers would consider producing toys like this to serve ship girls. Fortunately, the inflatable carrier-based aircraft B-25 is also very good looking. Even if the carrier girl doesn't like it very much, it probably won't lose money and sales will be bleak. The Prince of Wales's swimsuit is too erotic. Saying this, Saratoga suddenly burst out laughing, and added, "The Prince of Wales's swimsuit is similar to Veneto's swimsuit, and Veneto's swimsuit, she actually not wearing a children's swimsuit, ha ha ha, she's obviously the cutest in Chikushui." Sugu nodded, Veneto, deeply convinced. There are so many people on the beach. Brother-in-law, I really wish it was just the two of us. Last time I went to Sichuan show, it was a pity that Zai and the others were also there. Saratoga sat on the beach with her hands clasped around her knees, her wish soon coming true. That evening, the town government organized a barbecue. It felt good to have a barbecue on a summer night. There were 2 charcoal fires on the playground, and several tables were set up. Everyone barbecued, played cards, drank wine, and chatted. Richelieu not only knows how to paint, but also mixes drinks. It feels like she is an all-rounder. Lexington said, "Don't look at Richelieu, who is usually serious, but you can't stand being romantic. Is Amethyst really friends with them? It feels like she is always being bullied." Sigsby was encouraging Amethyst to drink. When Lexington saw this, she stood up and said, "I'll go take a look." "Admiral, let me bake your wings." "Admiral, Lafayette wants to drink secretly." "How dare you report it?" The barbecue gradually entered late into the night in a lively atmosphere. Sugu was munching corn and saw that counterattack was already packing things. He wanted to help and saw Northampton approaching. "Admiral, I will go to Fujian City tomorrow." Sugu hesitated for a moment, thinking of his current job in Northampton. "Rabbit, Rabbit. Because of York City's relationship, I found the Hornets, Northampton, and the Raiders, and got the news that Princeton was working as a beautiful dealer in a luxury yacht, as a guard. Unfortunately, once the cruise ship goes to sea, it takes a lot of time to go back and forth, so there is no way to get specific information. But I heard that the ship docked for a long time every time, so I wasn't worried about missing it. Northampton has always been responsible for this matter, and she is much more reliable than the Hornet. Especially now that Bumblebee has found his sister, and is influenced by his sister York City, his thinking becomes more simple and crude. Besides, she got back her own bomber B-25 and returned to the garrison. She is not a responsible person, lives a carefree life, and now looks like a child in her 20s. Sugu said, "Do you have any news about Rabbit and the others?" Northampton said, "I didn't see it when I went to Fujian City last time. I went to take a look this time. In fact, I haven't seen it for a long time. I can't miss it." Saratoga had actually been sitting next to Sugu. When she heard Northampton's words, she said, "Fujian City, is it for the Rabbit?" Brother-in-law, have you been to Fujian City?" "I went there on official business." Saratoga said, "This time, don't go to Northampton. My brother-in-law and I will go." "Brother-in-law, let's go." "I haven't gone to Fujian City yet." Northampton said with some embarrassment, "Rabbit has changed a lot, and it doesn't matter, I recognize Princeton, she has a lot of pockmarks on her face." Sugu couldn't bear it and said, "They are just freckles at most." Sugu remembered some freckles in the Princeton game portrait, but there was still a difference between freckles and pockmarks. "Anyway, I know the Rabbit, so be it." Saratoga said she recognized Princeton and was quite familiar with him. However, Northampton said that Princeton has changed a lot. In fact, it cannot be said that it has changed a lot, it is much cuter and more beautiful. Saratoga added, "You have been there so many times, it is impossible for us to meet just when we go there." In fact, she didn't pay too much attention. She went to Northampton several times and never met Princeton. It was impossible for her to meet Princeton just by herself. But can this be said to be a flag? Well, it is indeed a flag. The next day, Sugu and Saratoga set off, and soon arrived at Fujian City. "Brother-in-law, we are finally the only ones left, and Xiaozai and the others didn't come out with them either." "Where are we going? How about a love hotel?" "Are you thinking too much? Where is the yacht parked?" "Whatever. Brother-in-law, look at that ship, it's so strange." "It's quite strange." "Well, it seems like, it's not that coincidental." Saratoga lightly kicked Sugu on the calf and said, "Brother-in-law, crow mouth. You said it yourself first. No, this is a good thing, how can you say it is a crow's mouth?"